Before we get to the 188 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, I want to briefly share my thoughts on Kobe Bryant and the tragic events of Sunday, January 26th. I know this is a football podcast about the Browns, but what happened transcends basketball. It transcends sports. Kobe's death sent shockwaves through LA, through the US, and pretty much every corner of the globe. Kobe was a global icon. The way Kobe's been able to redefine himself post NBA career has been remarkable. An Oscar winner to note, but people always seem to mention first now his care, attention, and effort he put into being a father. The way he invested into his children. From the outside, it seemed he was trying to make up for lost time, and maybe he was. Personally, Kobe was one of the first super duper stars I remember getting drafted into the NBA. I've watched his entire career and rooted against him every step of the way. But damn it, he was fun to root against. He won some. We won some. We found joy in his air balls, and he thrived on excellence and perfect practice. When controlling him in 2K or NBA Live, my friends and I would always shoot the ball every single time because, well, Kobe. And we would laugh, but deep down, you always knew that he could make it, and Kobe knew he could make it too. Kobe was the answer to will there ever be another Michael Jordan. Kobe wanted to be Michael, and deep down, I think we all wanted him to be Michael too. Love him or hate him, the man could hoop. And now is not the time to address his personal issues or concerns or his Colorado incident. Now is not the time to ask why he gave himself a nickname. Now is the time to mourn with the families who lost loved ones and to remember the joy they brought into this world. Kobe Bean Bryant, thank you. Look, this is a long episode. I've gathered every single 5 hot minute segment from this past season and put them together. It's a fascinating re-listen. Take your time with it or don't or binge it. We don't care. But we do think you're going to enjoy this. Just a super weird day. This has taken a while to kind of compile and had on my schedule to finish this today. And I've just been a prisoner of this moment of Kobe and all that. It's a day that no one's going to forget. It's going to change the landscape of the NBA. Hug the people you love most. Here we go. Jim Donovan, take it away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, can't block! They blocked the kick!
Let's jump right into it. 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
So of course, right after the game yesterday, I was emotional. I thought I was going to come on here and just go absolutely bananas. But as I always do, I stepped back, I watched the game again, I went over the numbers, I thought about some things, and I actually watched the Steelers-Patriots game last night, and this is what I came to. When you watch the Browns, it was disjointed, it was ugly, and it was the first time they'd all played together. Now, that's not an excuse. There is no excuse for 18 penalties or for 180-some yards, whatever it is. That's crazy. At any level of football, you cannot play behind the sticks. We were constantly behind the sticks. There's an old saying by Mike Tyson, everybody has a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, guess what? You don't game plan to be 2nd and 25 and 2nd and 20 and 1st and 20. That kind of stuff just can't happen in the NFL. And you have to at least attribute part of that to the fact that these guys had never played together. Now, where the Steelers versus the Patriots game comes in for me, when I watched the Browns yesterday, I saw a bunch of talented guys that weren't ready to play together and weren't ready to play. When I watched the Steelers versus Patriots, I saw a Steelers team that got beat by the same amount that we did with completely devoid of high-end talent. I think the Steelers do not have the talent to proceed forward as a winner. If I felt that way about the Browns, if I looked out there and didn't see the talent, I'd probably be a lot more depressed today than I am. But there is clearly talent on the field. Now the question that has to be answered, can Freddie Kitchens do what it takes to get these guys playing the way they should be? Does he have the ability or the will to will these guys into disciplined players, because you cannot win with 18 penalties. You cannot win with your starting left tackle getting kicked out for kicking someone in the face. You cannot win with a team leader like Myles Garrett pushing someone in the face. You cannot win that way. You cannot win by letting your emotions take control of you in a game. There was I read a blog, I'm sorry, I can't attribute who it was, that said that the second day of practice with the Colts, when there's a bunch of fights that the Browns started, that maybe Tennessee got wind that if you talk a little smack to these Browns, they can't keep their composure, and maybe they were talking a little, and that caused the Browns to get away from themselves. So what we have to do now, refocus, look to this Monday night game. Now, if we lose this Monday night game, then we have problems, because then we have the Rams coming to town and then the Ravens after that. And if this team starts out 0-4 with the big personalities on the team, we're going to have some issues. But right now, at this moment, there's nothing to worry about. We regroup, get back together, we let Freddie do his thing, and we wait and see what happens Monday night. Chase, that's what I got.
Man, I would love for this podcast to be a 40-minute crap on the Steelers session. I don't think that's what it's going to be, but that sounds like a good remedy for what I'm feeling right now, Jeremy. So I don't know. I go back and forth. Sometimes I think that there is cause for concern, and sometimes I don't. This is what I don't understand. A couple things I don't understand about what happened yesterday. We're recording on Monday afternoon. One is all training camp, all offseason, what was the narrative that we, the fans, were reading from almost every talking head from the Browns and media members? Oh, this is a much different camp. Oh, Freddie's keeping them longer. Oh, this is, man, Freddie's got this person running. Oh, this is a more disciplined team. This was the most undisciplined team I've ever seen in orange and brown ever, Jeremy, ever. 18 penalties.
No, I agree.
What happened? And then another thing I don't understand, how in the world can Tennessee sign a kicker 5 days ago and he's drilling 53-yard field goals like it's nothing, and we can't find a kicker to kick an extra point?
It's incredible, man. I don't have an answer for any of that. I think that there's a big argument to be made, Chase, when we go back to it about playing guys in preseason. I actually heard people, do you remember this, making fun of the Chiefs because they were playing Mahomes so much in the preseason. He doesn't need to play. What happened yesterday? They put up 40. People were actually making fun of the Ravens. Why is Lamar Jackson still in the game? He runs. He's going to get hurt. What did they do yesterday? Put up 52 points. It seems that the teams that played their guys in preseason a little more were more cohesive and just played better, period. And I think the other thing you have to say, and hey, it's Freddie's first game ever. He got out coached. Tennessee had a game plan and they stuck to it. They were not going to come out of what they did. They were going to run the ball. They were going to pound the ball. They were going to do the short controlled passing game. They were not going to get crazy. And that's what they did. And sure enough, they wore us out and they beat us. Mike Vrabel out-coached Freddie Kitchens yesterday. There is no doubt about that. That cannot be understated.
I agree. I think the Chiefs' success, I mean, obviously Mahomes is otherworldly, and putting him in the same sentence as Lamar Jackson is very, very kind. I think the Ravens' success has more to do with John Harbaugh and the Chiefs' Andy Reid. Those are veteran.
Right, but look, they have a young team too. They have a young team with a bunch of new parts. Their number one receiver's a rookie. Their number one running back's a guy they signed in the offseason. They're similar to the Browns in that that manner that they brought in a bunch of guys, but they played a ton in the preseason together. So you could see that. Now, we know OBJ's hip. We know he had some hip issues. We know there's some other issues. And we also know that if the Browns would have played these guys a bunch in the preseason and someone got hurt, that would have been, we'd be having this argument just in a different way. So I don't know, Chase. I just think there is more value to guys playing in the preseason than maybe we give credit to.
I think there's more value in head coaching in the NFL than people give credit to.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely there is. What I say from the beginning, all season, what was I saying, Chase? Two things win in the NFL, scheme and coaching, right? Our scheme and talent. Your talent and having a scheme that fits your talent are the two most important things in the NFL. And I assumed, because the offense looked so good under Freddie last year, that wasn't going to be something we have to worry about. And, Chase, I'm not worried about it yet. I will be worried about it, however, if we come out and look this way again next Monday.
And that's where my concern is. This is a must-win week 2 of the NFL season if we have any playoff aspirations. Starting off the season 0-2 on 2 playoff hopeful teams. The Titans, they have three winning seasons the last 3 years. I mean,
and they're 9-7. They're perennial 9-7ers.
I will admit I was undervaluing them, overlooking them, thinking that they were worse than they were. But that's a team that's going to be in the wild card hunt. The Jets, they're looking at the AFC East and like, man, we could sneak in at 9-7, whatever. Like if we start out with 2 losses against those teams, I don't think we can recover from that. I know it's week 2, but That did not look like an
Well,
AFC North
it's a
champion.
long season, but part of the problem is you know, this 7-game stretch to start the season is so rough. 8, you know, if you count with the Patriots right after the bye, and with the big personalities on this team that like to talk, if you fall down 0-4, 0-3, you know, even 0-2, even, and it starts to snowball, and that's something you got to worry about. And that's where having a first-time head coach running the show could be a problem.
You know, I was excited when he missed the extra point because I thought my 2-point conversion prediction was going to be a real thing.
Yeah, that's right.
We got a safety, which kind of threw a lot of that out the window. I don't want to put all the blame on the kicker because 18 penalties is not the kicker's fault, but
No.
I feel like something changed there, Jeremy. You were at the game. What happened when he missed that extra point in the stadium?
I don't think it was all because it was we came out so fast. I think I actually heard people say, we don't need extra points. Look at this offense, you know, greatest show on turf, right? So I mean, to bang up the field and even overcome a big penalty on that drive and score that easily, I don't think people were overly concerned at the game about the missed extra point, to be honest with you.
Well, I can tell you what, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo,
We're all over it.
I think we're doubting their decision to come to Cleveland for the opening week.
Well, by the end of the game,
it was
sure.
Yeah, they were killing it as one of the most disjointed games that they've ever watched. No rhythm.
I mean, yeah, when you just have that many, it's impossible. Look, that's the kind of thing, like I said, that starts at 8 years old. You cannot be 1st and 20. They don't draw up plays for 2nd and 35. Okay, those just don't exist. When you get behind the sticks all the time, it limits what you can do. It limits Chubb's effect. Look, Chubb still had decent numbers, being vastly underused, and a couple of his big runs, called back holding here. And you know what? I got to say this too, because I was getting a little bit angry. You know, I understand being a homer, but you know what? All but one of those penalties that I actually saw were legit. The pass interference on OBJ was a horrible call. All he did was shrug the guy off of him that was holding him. That was an absolutely horrible call. The Browns actually could not challenge that because it was in the last 2 minutes of the half, so it would have had to been challenged from upstairs. But that was not pass interference. Other than that, I mean, I saw, you know, holds. I saw you can't. What are you going to say to Greg Robinson kicking someone in the head? Is that the referee's fault? No. Myles Garrett getting baited into hitting the guy in the face mask. Is that the referee's fault? When you see a guy's jersey getting pulled in the line, they're going to call that in the NFL. That's holding. And I saw it on multiple occasions. It was nothing to do with the refs. It was undisciplined play by undisciplined players. That's what the problem was. And when you're behind the sticks like that, I can't blame Baker. I cannot blame Baker. Yes, you know, when you start pressing the ball at the end of the game, so that pick the Malcolm Butler, that stuff happens. Baker at one point had hit 11 straight passes when the game was still close.
Yeah.
Okay. Baker was not horrible. He completed 60-some% of his passes while having pressure up in his face quite a bit of the game because of Greg Robinson's stupid decision to kick the guy in the head, causing a complete upheaval of the offensive line. So I do not blame Baker at all in this mess. I don't think Baker's – you can't blame OBJ. OBJ looked great when they got him the ball. He had one of the better corners in the league, Malcolm Butler, on him most of the game, and he was always open. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the catch on the slant. There was a slant in the beginning of the second half that Baker threw a rocket about an inch from the ground, and somehow OBJ is able to scoop that, pull it in like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, seeing the talent on the field is probably the biggest reason I'm not as upset today as maybe I would have been if I thought the problem was talent. The problem's not talent. Now, it still could be a huge deal if Freddie and the boys can't get them together for this week, but lacking talent is not the issue with this Browns team.
Yeah, I don't think it's talent as well. I don't think you can blame Baker. I mean, the Titans knew we were passing at the end of the game. They pinned their ears back.
Right.
They still get
just
pressure
trying to force the ball in, make play.
Which is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, when you got a guy that you just picked up who's a guard playing right tackle for the whole second half of the game, you know, Lamb, who came in to play for Robinson, got hurt in like 3 plays. You have a right guard who's been with the team 4 days playing right tackle. I mean, that's not a recipe for success in the NFL. No. Especially against a guy like Jarrell Casey, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL.
And that's why that's not like the Titans had their starting left. This is why I think coaching, it all goes back to Freddie Kitchen. This is why I am concerned, Jeremy, because he was hired in January. It's not like he hasn't had time, I mean, to call Bill Parcells or to figure this thing out. And
but this
had no clue. Like he was over his head. I've heard that, you know.
Let me say this though. Let me emphasize the point that I've been trying to make. The penalties are partially his fault, partially the players, okay? But you can't scheme for 1st and 25. You don't plan on being behind the sticks How many of those penalties were on our offense? 15, 14? I mean, a lot of those penalties were on the offense. They put us behind the sticks and they erase big plays. Freddie can't scheme to be 2nd and 20 all the time. You can't establish the run game if they're holding all the time. Like we said, I think Chubb had 14 carries for 75 yards, even with 2 or 3 big ones called back. So I can't completely blame him for schematically for the offense because of the penalties. Now, the penalties are at least partially his fault. And I remember I think it was Tony Grossi that asked him a question about how do they prepare for penalties. He said, we don't practice penalties, quote unquote. Well, maybe they should have practiced penalties a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that was 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell presented.
That was 12 hot minutes.
That was 12 hot minutes. Well, let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell presented by Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Okay, so that's what I want to talk about right now is this silly notion that, we didn't look sharp, so it's not a good – shut up. We're not good enough. We're not far enough removed from 0-16 to be mad about a win. Yes, Baker doesn't look sharp at time. They're still trying to work through it. In reality, this would be like their second preseason game playing together. And, by the way, now we have a talent like Odell Beckham Jr. who can cover up some of the ugliness. He's like a good cologne covering up some of the smelliness. When you have a guy that can take a pass 89 yards at any time and make one of the most ridiculous one-handed catches I've ever seen look super easy down by the goal line, that is a beautiful thing. So, yes, Baker is not quite on the same page. You got to remember, too, Higgins, his security blanket, didn't play today. And Njoku left in the first quarter, and he doesn't have Callaway. They're still working through some things. Don't panic. He had a horrible game, and he still had 325 yards, only won by 3 touchdowns. Let's all step back a little bit. We're 1-1. The schedule gets crazy tough, but I am not as worried as a lot of you are because I think that things are going to start coming together more and more for Odell. Oh, and how about my boy Odell? How about I told you guys that he was playing coy about that hip? I think he was. That hip sure looked pretty good, running 89 yards and making 3 guys look absolutely ridiculous. So we have weapons now. Yes, Baker wasn't sharp, but he still threw for 325 on a bad night. We won 23-3. It was a 3-touchdown blowout. I like the way Ratley looks. I think Ratley's going to be a nice 4th receiver, 5th receiver when everybody's healthy. He's big. He's rangy. He quietly had 75 yards receiving. So, guys, just trust me. Do not get upset. Look forward to Sunday. We got the Rams coming to town. Our front 4 was as advertised today. They looked awesome. I'm just telling you, don't freak out. We're going to be all right, guys. We're going to be all right.
I think one of the takeaways from this game is the Browns have talent, and they have game-changing talent.
Exactly. That's what we've been lacking, Chase. Let me get on that a little bit, too. That's what we've been lacking for so long. A guy who can consistently do that. Yeah, we had Josh Gordon, but he was never consistently on the field. A guy that can completely flip a game on a pass play like that. Talent plus scheme equals wins, like I've said. But talent can also cover bad play. You could be, almost like it was. Ugly offense, boom, 89-yard touchdown. That's why everybody is so puzzled as to how the Giants trade a receiver like that. How do you trade the most dynamic receiver in the league, in his prime at 26, 27 years old? It just doesn't make sense. And you saw tonight, are there 5 guys in the league that can make 2 plays like that, Chase? Are there? I don't think there are. I don't think there's 5 guys in the league that can make a one-handed incredible catch look so easy on the sidelines and then take essentially a post 89 yards and split 3 defenders for a touchdown. It just doesn't exist. So when you got a guy like that on offense, and then you got a guy, back who the left tackle for the Jets is not terrible. And he just bull rushed him for 2 of those sacks. I mean, there's nothing Falk could do. Bull rushed him. He almost had 5 sacks. He's got 5 sacks through 2 games. He's going to set the Browns record through 8 games at this pace. So we have a game changer on defense. We have a game changer on offense. We have a bunch of other talent to fill in. I would not be one bit worried right now by the offense looking a little sloppy. It's going to start coming together more and more every week. Hopefully this week against the Rams at home, it all comes together and we have a beautiful, awesome victory.
So one of the things that does concern me though, Jeremy, is we still haven't seen the final product. And I know you're saying we haven't played a lot together, second preseason game, but dude, this isn't the preseason. This is the regular season Monday night. And I saw people tweeting about this. There is no identity. We give the ball to Chubb and then he disappears in the second half. We're trying to get something going. And it's just not there. Baker does not look good. I don't know, Jeremy, if there's a lot of Monken versus Kitchens and behind closed doors. I don't know what is going on, but something just doesn't feel right. And
I don't think that's the case at all, Chase, about the Monken. And I just think like I said, it's going to take some time for them to get on the same page. And I think you started to see a little bit there in the second half. And I think once we get everybody back on the field and playing together, it'll be even more and more pronounced. So I wouldn't worry about it yet, man. Let's see what happens Sunday night. We got this win. I had all day I was hearing people, I'm worried about tonight's game, 23-3. We win by 3 touchdowns. Let's celebrate. Have a good have a good night. Yes, there's stuff to work on. We'll see what happens next Sunday.
It does feel weird being like pessimistic after we had this game won in the middle of the
Three
third
touchdown
quarter.
win on the road.
Yeah,
3 touchdown win on the road. I mean, the front four, it was dominating. The Browns front four and defense was dominating.
Yeah.
I don't care who was playing quarterback; they were gonna have a tough time tonight.
Yep.
Because I mean, it was something to see.
Well, let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so if we would have done this show right after the game, it would have been a lot different show. I was angry, obviously. I mean, I was at the game, I was loud, I was into it. The thing that got me so upset, Chase, was that I actually predicted, if you remember, if we got to 21 points, we would win the game. If you remember that, so we needed to get 21 points. I thought the defense would do enough to slow them down. Jared Goff struggles on the road, all of that, and the defense that was completely decimated put us in a position to do that. We had the ball first and goal at the 4-yard line with a chance to tie the game up. So I was mad at that point. But the more I think about it, and the more I realize that this is the NFL and everybody's a pro, the more I regret that the Browns didn't play more in the preseason. Let me tell you why, Chase. The worst player on the worst team, the 53rd man on the worst team, is still one of the best in the world at what he does. So to expect the Browns to bring in all these new pieces, a new offense, not play at all in the preseason, and start the season looking smooth is just not going to happen. Then you add in all these injuries. You add in the suspension to Callaway. It's just not realistic that this team is going to look good right away. I know Freddie would never admit it, but if he had it to do over, I think they would have played Baker way more in the offseason. I think in the preseason. I think that Baker himself is struggling more to pick up the system and find his rhythm more than even he thought he would, more than Freddie thought he would. But when you take into account that everyone in the NFL is good, everyone is awesome. When you got a team like the Rams, a defense that made the Super Bowl last year, a defense with parts and pieces that have played together for an extended amount of time, it's tough even with great talent to jump in and be cohesive enough to beat them soundly, especially when you're missing pieces. You heard Odell say it after the game. We're not the Rams yet. We're not there yet. It's going to take some time to develop an identity. Now, all that being said, Freddie doesn't get a pass much longer. This team has to develop an identity. Even missing guys, you still have Jarvis Landry, you still have Odell Beckham. There's no excuse for not handing the ball to Chubb when you have 3 timeouts, first and goal at the 4. There's no excuse for not having some route, either an arrow route, something to isolate Odell one-on-one down in that area. There's no excuse for not getting the ball to him more, on a 4th and 9 play to run a draw. As ESPN said, that's the first ever draw on 4th and 7 or more since they've been tracking such things, okay? It's never happened. You have a receiver with the best hands in the league, a guy that makes catches you can't believe, that holds on the balls you can't believe, one hand, two hand. You got to give him a shot to make a play there in both those situations. So, I heard the story of Jarvis going up to Freddie after the game and telling him not to worry. This team's still going to be good. We got the talent. And I agree with that. But it is incumbent upon Freddie from this moment forward to find a way to make Baker Mayfield comfortable and to get this team an identity. The fact that the offense that was a yeoman's effort by that defense. You had guys like we talked about, Justin Burris. You had Isaiah Whitehead. You had guys come off the bench and play their butts off. 3 turnovers, put the team in a position, and an offense with stars still there couldn't come through. So from this moment forward, I'm done giving Freddie a pass. There's no more passes. From this moment forward, this team needs to start to develop an identity, and this offense needs to get clicking, and it's got to start this week against Baltimore, Chase.
Jeremy, I'm going to disagree with you. I hear you with the Freddie talk. I don't see your preseason point, and here's why. I would rather be having this discussions regarding Baker Mayfield and Jarvis and OBJ and not Garrett Gilbert and Damian Ratley and God knows who else we'd have on the team. The offense, the first team offense looked so smooth in the preseason, Jeremy. And I think that's why so many people are scratching their heads.
But only for one series, one series, Chase. When the first team that played against Tampa looked awful and disjointed. The only time they played together was one series when they went down the field and scored, and then they were out. That was the only time they looked good. What I'm trying to say, Chase, my point is the NFL, the other teams are pros too. They're awesome. The defenses are awesome. A lot of them have played together. We are not a cohesive unit yet because we don't have the reps. It takes repetitions. In my opinion, they should have played a lot more in the preseason, like Baltimore did. Baltimore's installing a new offense with a young quarterback, and their offenses looked great. You know, Kansas City, we know they're great anyway, but they played a ton in the preseason with a lot of new parts. You got to remember, they lost a lot of pieces there in Kansas City, and they've just plugged them in, and they've looked great. So I just believe that to build that cohesion, they should have played more the starters in the preseason. That's just my opinion. But I respect the fact you disagree, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I think the most important goal of preseason is to get out healthy, and honestly, we kind of did that. We've hit the injury bug this first quarter of the season, but that's okay. I think what's a huge testament to our defense, man. They stepped up, played an incredible game, just a phenomenal game, a great scheme. Shouts to our D coordinator, head coach from the Buccaneers. I think he just did an incredible job. Steve Wilkes, yes, thank you. Did an incredible job.
He did.
I think the issue is with Freddie and Munkin. I really do. I don't know what the issue is. I don't think particularly Baker's happy or comfortable. Just looking at, he can't be happy with his production, with the product on the field. I just don't know. It is a concern. We'll get to that in silver linings. But I do agree with you, Jay. It was an incredible defensive effort. Despite all of that, we had a chance to win. We were on the 4-yard line.
I can't imagine not giving the ball to Chubb at least one time, 1st and goal at the 4 with all 3 timeouts. It doesn't even, it's incomprehensible to me. And to not have some play, I don't know if I read it or I heard someone say it, but that Freddie said he didn't have a play he felt comfortable with forcing it to Odell there. It's like, why not? Why don't you have a play? For the guy with the best hands in the league. So the fact that they didn't force it to Odell, or at least try to isolate him somewhere, and the fact they didn't give it to Chubb is agonizingly just, I don't understand it.
Yep. I wasn't too impressed with Jared Goff. I know we've talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
The 2 people I was most impressed with were Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp.
Aaron Donald's an absolute monster. I mean, he's
top 5 receiver
unstoppable
in the NFL. What he did to us last night on Sunday night was it was criminal. He was wide open every play, and shouts. I mean, I think McVay schemed him open, but man, he just did whatever he wanted.
Well, yeah, that his second touchdown, that was scheme. That was unbelievable. It's like, why didn't we have a play like that? They lined up, they trips to the one side, ran outs on that side, and then he just cut underneath the defense back across the entire side of the field and got it with wide open.
Wide open.
It's frustrating.
Wide open. I think it's unfair to Freddie putting him against. Why don't we have a scheme like that? McVay is one of the best offensive playmakers in the NFL, scheme wise. But Goff missed throws. He made a couple good throws. Baker had a couple good throws, and that's what's confusing is there are glimpses, Jeremy, of Baker during the game where he steps up and makes these incredible throws. You're like, yes, there it is. But it's like 3 or 4 times a game.
Right. Well, that's where the reps come in, I think. I think that's where getting him comfortable in whatever scheme. That's why they have to develop this identity. I mean, he looked great on these RPOs. We'd barely done it coming into this game, and they're throwing RPO, boom, 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 and he looks great. When he gets the ball out quick, he's putting it on the money. When he has to think about it right now, he's missing targets. I don't know if you could tell on TV, but there was the play on a 3rd and long where Jarvis Landry popped wide open, and he threw behind him. That's a play that he put right in his chest last year. And if it was a quick, RPO, quick throw, boom, he probably would have. But for whatever reason, when he takes a regular drop, gets back in the pocket, he is just inaccurate right now. And, that's up to Freddie and him to figure out how to get him more comfortable in the pocket.
We are 3 games in. Their game on Sunday against the Ravens marks into the first quarter of the NFL. Jeremy, are you worried about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about Baker Mayfield?
I'm probably at about a 6 right now, but we'll see what happens Sunday. Like I said, I'm going to start, for me personally, I'm not telling anyone else to do this. I'm starting this week going forward. I think now we've got the preseason out of the way. Now it's time to figure this out. It's time to figure out what we're going to be. It's time to develop an identity, and it's time for them to implement this offense and know what they are and go forward from here. And that's my opinion.
Not to jump too far ahead of ourselves here, but the Browns fall to 1-2. We have a chance to take sole possession of the AFC North if we beat the Ravens this Sunday,
We
which
tied. We'll tie with the tiebreaker in our favor if we can win Sunday.
Which would be just an unbelievable narrative. But we have all week to talk about that. Well, let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy and Akron, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
I want to talk a little bit about Nick Chubb, and he's another guy that I didn't want. So I'm 0 for 2 right now on these, right? But Nick Chubb is the consummate pro. Nick Chubb is the opposite of flashy. Nick Chubb is old school. Nick Chubb just wants to go out and do his job. And, do his job very well. Nick Chubb is never going to be the guy on social media flashing what he's got. Nick Chubb is never going to be the guy complaining after a game he didn't get his touches. Nick Chubb is going to do what he's told to do, and he's going to do it to the best of his ability every time he touches the field. This guy is a hero. This guy is a role model. This guy is everything you want in a football player, and he's on our team, baby. I just can't believe when you see this guy, we talked about it before the show some, Chase, but this guy is deceptively fast. He's big, but when he gets downhill, nobody catches him. The guy is in his second year in the league, playing in a city, on a team, on a franchise with some of the greatest running backs in NFL history. Let me repeat that. Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly, Greg Pruitt, some of the best, Marion Motley, some of the best running backs in the history of the league. And in 2 years, he has 2 of the 3 longest runs in that franchise history. 92 and 88 today, to seal the game today, to take all the wind out of Baltimore sails, to put a dagger in their hearts. Nick Chubb, the most unlikely of heroes, is exactly what he is. He's a hero. He's not flashy. He is just a guy who goes on and gets – is there – everyone says Baker is so Cleveland. Is there really anyone more Cleveland, though, than Nick Chubb, a guy who, quote, brings his hard hat to work, brings his lunch pail to work? But it's true. The guy just comes, does his job, doesn't look for attention, does what he's told. You're never going to hear him complain. Freddie Kitchen said he's one of the greatest human beings he's ever met. Hats off to you, Nick Chubb, player of the game, hero to everyone in Cleveland. What a guy Nick Chubb is.
Nick Chubb, 20 carries, 165 yards, 3 touchdowns. Browns would not have won without Nick Chubb today. What an incredible game by Nick Chubb.
Just unbelievable. I mean, here's another stat that I couldn't even believe when I saw this. Did you know today that is the 4th most yards Baltimore has given up in the history of their franchise? 4th most yards they've given up in the history of their franchise. Let that sink in, okay? Today, the Browns that were reeling, the Browns that were the national joke, the Browns that everyone was making fun of, went out and put up 500-plus yards against the Baltimore Ravens and beat them in their place to take the lead in the division on the back of Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield, but really Nick Chubb. What a day, Chase. What a freaking day.
I think what we realized was this Browns team growing up right in front of our eyes. They kind of experimented and maybe teased us a little bit last week against the Rams, where they had this opportunity and they didn't know what to do with it. Well, this week they had this opportunity and they took full advantage of it. Before Nick Chubb had that run, the Ravens had just scored a touchdown. They just got the 2-point conversion. The Browns were up by 6. We were on our own 12-yard line. And they could have very easily gone 3 and out, kicked the ball to the Ravens at the start of the 4th quarter, and here we go, same old Brown stuff, right? But instead, Chubb breaks off an 88-yard touchdown where we get the Baker arm flail down the
field. Running almost as fast as and Chubb. And again, now for the second time this season, a different Brown has the fastest speed of a touchdown run in the league. Chubb just took that mantle from Odell Beckham Jr. He reached almost 22 miles per hour on that run. A guy that's 235 pounds. If you watch it, I've watched that run 5 times, as I'm sure every Browns fan has. But if you watch it, you could almost see it in his eyes. Okay, when he took off, he had bad intentions, right? Oh, yeah. He knew there was a gap. He knew he was going to hit it. He made Earl Thomas and Tony Jefferson. Shout out to Tony Jefferson, the guy who I've quarreled with on Twitter multiple times in the past. Yeah, how's that taste, Tony? Watching Nick blow right by you. It was kind of funny. I saw the name Jefferson running after Browns players an awful lot today. Have some of that, Tony Jefferson, who spurned the Browns to take $2 million less from the Ravens. How's that feel right about now that we beat you 2 the last 3 games, Tony? I'm just pumped, man. I don't care. This is just fantastic. I love it. I love every second of it.
I think a lot can be attributed also to the line. The offensive line played an
Yes.
incredible game today. Chris Hubbard come back, and I think that's a very kind of like underrated, under the radar addition to that line. It seemed more gelled. Baker trusted the line more, and obviously
got touched one sack. One sack, got hit one time. That was it.
And I think Chubb's played well all year. He's had lanes where he has like one or two players to miss and he's gone. And I think he took full advantage of that. So I'm super glad. I didn't realize how important Hubbard was to this team. And it's kind of evident in this game that, we need him on the line.
Right. And Chubb, man, he had a little extra today. Even on that 14-yard touchdown run, he broke, 5 tackles?
Gosh, yeah.
And he had that juice today. He had a little extra juice, and it was almost like he was filling it. And hopefully he's filling it for the next, 6 or 7 weeks straight here. But I'm telling you, man, it was just an incredible game as a Browns fan to watch. It was just fun. I'm stoked, dude. I'm just super pumped.
Before we jump to the Brown silver lining, Jay, I do want to mention, you said there's no one more Cleveland than Nick Chubb. And I think that is true. Nick Chubb is quiet, goes to work, clocks in, clocks out, does exceptional work. And that is the heart and soul of Cleveland. But I think Jarvis Landry, Jeremy, the quintessential leader of a quintessential veteran leader in our locker room that was the catalyst of this whole new Browns regime on Hard Knocks in the receiver.
Yeah.
We saw that fire then, that kind of a spark that, I quote Star Wars, a spark that lit the flame or whatever that quote is. What a game in the first half.
Yes. And then he had the big run that got us down to the 1 in the second half.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't a run, it was a pass.
Triple option, like
just like last year. We've been wondering where that kind of stuff was. There it was again. Let me say this about Jarvis Landry. Remember my bold prediction was that Odell Beckham would have 8 catches for 160 yards? Yeah. Well, Jarvis Landry had the 8 catches for 167 yards. Because what is that? They found them, like I told you, they found the matchup. They exploited it. They liked that matchup. They went back to it time and time. Now, I didn't realize – I knew he got hurt. I didn't realize he got a concussion. So let's hope that it's mild and he's back this week. He's out of the protocol. I mean, that's possible. He could be out. Monday night game gives us an extra day as well. But we will be getting Callaway back next week and Higgins, from what I hear here. Higgins and Callaway back next week. But, yeah, just you're right. Jarvis Landry, you're right. He has set the tone for the new franchise. He set the tone on Hard Knocks last year. It's so much crap we hear about, spark score, he's not that athletic, all this crap here. Jarvis Landry is a guy every team wants. He's a guy with the heart, and he backs it up on the field. He plays every play like it's his last. Just awesome, man. Just an awesome teammate.
Yep, I mentioned last episode, he's going to be my next Browns jersey purchase, without a doubt. Let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so I got some news here, and it's probably going to be bad news, and we'll probably get some negative feedback from it, Chase, but I got to talk about it. When you talk a lot of smack over the summer and you don't deliver, you're going to get bashed, and you deserve it, all right? I saw so much blowback on social media towards Nick Bosa for the way he talked about Baker. Guess what, Chase? Baker had it coming. Nick Bosa dominated the game. That's what you guys need to see. It's awesome when you got a brash, cocky, loud quarterback when you are winning. When we are losing and he goes 8 for 22 for 100 yards and a couple picks, even if one of them wasn't his fault, he has to take it and we have to take it. See, I'm old school, Chase. I'm from the school where when you win, you talk. When you lose, you shut up and take what's your medicine, okay? That's what we have to do. We have to take our medicine. We all of us, including me and you, talked all summer about how great we were, how great we're going to be, how we were going to be unstoppable. Baker did the circuit. Probably that looks like the banquet circuit too, but we'll get back to that. Did the circuit, went around, went on every show, got all the endorsements, everything, and he was brash and he was cocky and he said he wasn't going to change for anybody and he was wired how he was and you were just going to have to deal with it. Well, guess what happens when you play like trash on national TV? You have to take it and you have to shut up. And guess what? All of us have to put our heads down, just like the team has to put their heads down and work and win on Sunday to clear this out. That's what it's got to be. We have no leg to stand on. When Nick Bosa and San Francisco fans and all these guys trash us, we just got to put our heads down and take it. That's just what it is. What do you think about that, Chase?
So I'm going to disagree, Jay.
Listen.
No. Not with the
okay.
We have to shut up and take it. Yes, of course, that's part of sports. But I think Baker gets a bad rap. There's a difference, Jeremy, in getting an endorsement with Progressive and saying what Nick Bosa said at his locker room after the game. There is a difference. I have never seen Baker Mayfield at a locker room, at a podium, be disrespectful the way that Bosa was at the locker. I don't care about his flag plant. I don't give two craps about that. But like what he said, how Richard Sherman has responded, I have never seen Baker act that way towards any other player. And that's different. Being with Hulu, being with Progressive, being with Tom Brady commercials, that's way different. That's way different than acting the way they have acted.
Right, but I'll grant you the Richard Sherman thing. That was stupid, and now they came. But Nick Bosa dominated that game at the line of scrimmage. Nick Bosa has every right to say everything he said because he dominated and he won. And I think part of the resentment towards Baker, you're right, isn't all him, although he did do a lot of interviews where he basically said, this is who I am. I don't care what you say. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to talk. Remember, I'm not your cookie-cutter quarterback. Remember that whole thing? So when you are like that and when you're brash, you're going to take some. The Richard Sherman thing was stupid. I think, but part of the Richard Sherman resentment comes from the fact of what we just talked about. Baker hadn't really proved that much, although, 27 touchdowns and 13 starts is pretty awesome. But he hadn't proved a lot, and every time you turn on Monday Night Football, like we talked about, or Sunday Night Football, what do you see? Baker doing a national commercial, whether it's the NFL Network, whether it's Progressive, whatever commercial it was, Baker is everywhere. And when you're young and you're brash and you're cocky and you're everywhere and you're making endorsement monies, veteran players are going to be jealous. That's just how it works. That's how it rolls. When they come out on national TV and they embarrass you, you're going to have to listen to it. And Baker knows that. I think Baker understands that, but I think the fans are a little taken aback. But that's how it is. Okay, we now have the target. This is what being the hunted looks like. In the past, we were the hunted. There was almost like teams felt a little bit bad for us in the past. The lowly Browns, they haven't done anything. Well, now we start getting accolades that coming our way. We got, guys that are box office. We got superstars out there. Teams want to put it to us. Did it look like San Francisco was inspired to play that game chase?
Oh, yeah.
They were those guys were running the ball like it was the damn Super Bowl. I mean, they were great. I saw a play where George Kittle blocked 3 dudes, cleared 3 guys out of the play. Breda, Coleman, it didn't matter who was running the ball. They were playing inspired. Did you see on Breda's first touchdown how he was doing the mouth signal, like keep talking, as he was running into the end zone?
Oh, I thought he was waving.
Yeah.
I thought he was waving.
No, he was doing the mouth, like mouth keep talking, as in, I shut you up pretty quick. So it's there, Chase. And now I agree with you that, I've never seen after a game Baker go into an interview and bash the other team. You're right. He hasn't done that. He goes into the game and just talks about that.
He has been nothing but a professional his whole career. He understands. You talk about respect, like as far as like player respect. I mean,
respect for other players. You haven't heard him come out and single out a single player as a bum or anything like that.
I think he gets a bad rap.
Well, Hugh Jackson. I mean, I wouldn't call it professional staring down Hugh and bouncing up the sideline. Now, we all love that. We love the cocky brashness, but that only plays when you win. That only plays when you win. When you start to lose, you got to accept the fact that teams are going to get on you about that.
That's fair. I think it's super funny that a player who got hurt, couldn't stay healthy, and then left his team is all of a sudden talking smack. Who's had one good game? All of a sudden he's like able to.
That was more than a good game, bro. That was more than a good game. That was a hell of a game. He dominated that front, and I agree with what you're saying to a point. Except there's a discussion to be had about whether what he did was smart or not. You get a pretty serious injury like that, and you're going to be a top 5 pick. A lot of it depends on what your values are. If you value, making money in your future, then you're probably gonna do the same thing he did. If you're more of a team-oriented guy and you just love to play ball, you're probably gonna fight your way back. So that's a value thing. With me and you, probably, I know with me, I would fight my way back to play because I just love the game. The money comes. You know what I mean? Money follows, in my opinion. When you love to do something and you're passionate about it, you do it and the money will follow. Now, some people think about it the other way. This is my livelihood. This is how I'm going to make my money. I'm going to take my time and come back slowly. So that's a different discussion for a different day. I don't blame Nick Bosa for that. But Nick Bosa was awesome, man. He had 2 sacks, and he was all over Baker all day.
Yeah, I'm sure Nick Bosa would decline endorsement money from Hulu, Progressive, not be in a commercial with Tom Brady, not go. Yeah, like people are going to not do that because they want to be humble. Man, shut up. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I'm not. That's not what. I get you. I get where you're coming from.
Obviously, we got dominated every facet of the game, even though I don't think the game was as
And I'm going to talk about that when we get out of 5 hot minutes here.
Like I know the yardage and all that looks different, but the game was closer than 31-3. I know the 49ers kind of let off the gas a little bit. The Browns did as well. But that one play to Callaway at the end of the second, if that was a touchdown, it's 14-10. The 49ers take it into half. They're getting the ball back. All of a sudden, it's a football game instead of a field goal and a touchdown after the half. I think is how that went maybe.
You know what they say, Chase?
It's a game of inches. They say a lot of things. I don't know what they say.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, then every day would be Christmas.
I love that saying. Yeah. So obviously, after this game, everyone's freaking out. The panic button has been pressed again. I want to read a couple things that we asked on Twitter to leave us some spice, some hot takes. Let me just read you a couple, and then you talk us off the ledge. Not so much silver linings. This is kind of where we're at once again, Jeremy. Once again, with a loss in an NFC opponent, not in our division, not in our conference, with the top 3 team in the NFL. All right, this is what we're saying. Promote Mike Prefert to head coach. Baker's not a good quarterback, and Freddie has been the worst head coach in the NFL, even though one just got fired. I added that. This offseason, the Browns and Cowboys are going to be a bidding war for Jay Gruden. The Browns can even beat Ohio State right now for real. Baker Mayfield's not going to be the QB that finally gets the Browns in the playoffs. He'll end up being benched. We'll have to draft someone else. Dorsey has been quiet. Maybe Monken versus Kitchens is like we had last year with Haley and Jackson. So some of these fans are just losing sleep over this game. Jimmy, this loss didn't bother me that badly. What about you?
Well, of course it bothered me, but yeah, I agree. It almost was like we've talked about this before with the snowball effect on the seasons. There was one of those snowball effects. It just unraveled so quick. It started with and like we talked about football as a game of inches. So right. 1 inch further in, and Ricky Seals-Jones has that catch for a first down the sideline around the 20-yard line, and who knows what happens there. 1 inch on that 2nd and 15 when Odell had about a 25-yard catch and Baker sailed it just out of his reach. Yeah. There's another one. Like you said, Antonio Callaway. People are saying that wasn't a good throw by Baker, but actually
that was perfect.
People said he had to throw it a little behind him because of the way the defense was coming. So that I don't think that was exactly. So I think that one was all on Callaway. But all 3 of those plays right there, those 3 plays go different. Who knows what happens? It's a different game. But you know what the difference between a good team and a bad team is, though? When the bleeding starts, the good teams know how to stop it, right? We couldn't stop it because we're not there yet. It's obvious we have talent. Look around. It's obvious we have talent. We're just not a great team yet. When you have a ton of talent, you can go out and whoop a team like the Ravens on your talent and talent alone, but you can't do that every week. When you're a team, you can consistently go out there and do that every week. And we hope week by week by week, we get to that point. Now, the schedule is going to ease up in a dramatic way. I don't know if you saw what was released today. The Browns have the 2nd easiest schedule in the league from here on out, even playing the Seahawks and the Patriots back to back. After that, it's nothing but a bunch of garbage. So starting, if we can, that's why to me, this week's game is so important. Because if we get to 3-3 right now with the schedule, then we go into the bye, come back with the Patriots, and then the rest of that really weak schedule, we can do something. If we lose these next 2, it's a different story. So I think week to week, we go right now and we beat Seattle and we're right back on track.
I think it wasn't really until the Browns were an obvious passing every situation that we couldn't move the ball. We moved the ball pretty well the first half, Jeremy. We really did against this vaunted.
Yeah, Chubb is awesome.
This vaunted 49ers defense, which to their credit, once they pin their ears back, man, they are dangerous and fast. But the first and second quarter, we were doing what we wanted. It was just a couple missed balls, honestly. This loss, 49ers are obviously the better team. They're better coached. They were better prepared for this game. Even they had a bye week. I think this loss is demoralizing, but it's not defeating in a really weird way. I don't know. Any final thoughts here in the 5 hot minutes, Jay?
No, just that. I mean, yeah, it was horrible and it was rough to watch and we all felt like garbage. And actually for me, at about the halfway through the third quarter, apathy set in and I was just firing off hot takes all over Facebook. but guess what? Just like after we lost to the Rams and then beat the Ravens, same scenario this week. If we can come in and beat the Seahawks this week, we're right back to where we need to be.
Yeah, this is Baker's first game without a touchdown pass since week 3 of the Jets last year.
Yeah.
Um,
It's first in his career. It was the second longest start ever in a career behind Kurt Warner.
yeah.
So that was, I think he had, I think Kurt was 23 games. So wasn't far behind him, but hey, started a new streak this week.
Also, it took Freddie Kitchens 4 games to win 2 games. I think it took Hugh Jackson
2 seasons,
3 seasons to win 3 games. So
yeah.
everyone just chill out
Yeah.
on
A little
even
bit.
Freddie Malt 40 here. A lot to talk about. Let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, presented by Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so you know what? The thing that I think I hate most about this season so far is that we're 2-4, and we have maybe the best running back in the league. We have great weapons all around the place. You see guys running wide open all over the field today, and we're 2-4. And the thing that really stinks about that is not a lack of talent. You know, in the past, it's always been a lack of talent. I mean, Nick Chubb is awesome. You see, he's probably the best pure running back in the league. You see Odell running around open. You see Jarvis Landry running around open. You see Ricky Seals-Jones running around open. But something is not right. When you get out to a 20-6 lead against one of the best teams in the league, you have to finish them off. You can't have penalty after turnover, after stupid mistake. That's not what winning teams do. And you know what this has done to me, Chase? It's made me so upset. Is I feel like my anticipation for the season is gone. Now it's just basically at 2-4 with a tough game coming up. It's just a week-to-week thing again, like it is every year. Like you know what I mean? You're not looking forward to the end result anymore. You're just looking forward to the individual games. Like instead of looking at the schedule and thinking, man, we're probably going to go to the playoffs or do this, now it's like, well, let's just go try to win a game. And I thought for sure this season was going to be different. This was the season that we were going to anticipate the playoffs, anticipate big games down the stretch, anticipate all this stuff. And now that's all gone. And I'm not 100% sure why. I don't know if Baker Mayfield is the problem. You can't blame the offensive line today. He had plenty of time to throw. Nick Chubb averaged 6 yards a rush. You can't blame the offensive line. There's only 2 people you can really blame today. It's either Baker Mayfield's fault or it's Freddie Kitchens' fault, because the playmakers are there. The scheme is working because I sit, like I've told you guys 100 times, I sit front row of the club level. I'm in the best seats in the house. I can see what is going on every play, and there are guys open. Freddie is scheming guys open. Even on the fourth and 11 play, the great throw to Jarvis Landry for the first down, Odell was wide open for a touchdown, and Baker missed him. I mean, there's guys open all over the field. The talent is obvious. I have never seen a running back. Nick Chubb hasn't even played, 22 games in his career yet, and he busts off big runs every single game. A 50-yarder today. He's had an 88-yarder this year. It's uncommon. He's uncommonly good. The talent is uncommon on this team. It's good. Myles Garrett has 9 sacks? He's on pace for 22 sacks. Are you kidding me? And we're 2-4. We're wasting incredible talent. We're wasting incredible seasons, and we're 2-4 with staring the bye week and then the Patriots on the road in the face. It's disappointing, and really it seems to me that Baker might be the problem, as much as that just drives everybody insane to admit. Now, it is his second season, and playing quarterback in the NFL is the toughest position in sports to play. So it's tough to put this all on him. Maybe they have to dial it back. Maybe there's something we're missing. But I know from sitting in that stadium today, I saw open receivers, so it can't be the scheme. I saw great running back play, so it can't be the talent. I saw great wide receiver play. I saw great individual efforts on defense. To me, that it leads me to one place, that Baker Mayfield is at least part of the problem, Jace.
You know, I agree, Jeremy. He has a propensity to turn the ball over, and it's bad when I can almost predict or have this weird gut feeling when it's going to happen. Is it feel that way in the stadium too, or is it just just me?
Today it did it. It felt different, just probably because our offense was the first 3 scored touchdowns in the first 3 series, and we haven't done that a lot in the past. But yeah, the turning point in the game when he misses Jarvis in the end zone, throws it way behind him. That's a 14-point swing right there, because Seattle goes down and scores on the other end. Right. Ends up, we talked about this ad nauseum. It's funny, Chase, is the game actually went exactly how we predicted it, right? Yeah. We both said what I say. There was no way the Browns were going to hold them under 21 points. It was going to have to be, I think I predicted 34-27. They were going to have to win in a high-scoring game. That's not a knock on the defense. That's just the fact that Russell Wilson is damn good. I think it's 13 straight games, right? They've scored over 21 points. It's not the defense. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Russell Wilson is just that good. The touchdown he threw in the back corner of the end zone with taking a huge hit from Joe Schobert, nobody else in the league makes that throw right now, right?
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, unbelievable throw. He's in sync with his players. He's smart. He's heady. He's a great quarterback. So I'm not even going to blame the defensive effort today because we knew coming in what it was going to be, right?
Right.
It was going to have to be this kind of game.
Yep.
And for the first 3 series, it looked like it was it. We had him. We had him on the ropes.
Yep.
And we couldn't finish it off thanks mainly to, miscues, penalties, and turnovers. You can't give Russell Wilson 4 turnovers and expect to win a game.
No.
So I don't know how you can blame, and it'll be popular. People will still be blaming Freddie for this. I don't know how you can blame Freddie today. I just don't think it was Freddie's fault. When you get, however many yards of offense we ended up with, a ton, and you're in position to make plays. I mean, when you get, all you can ask is to get the team into the red zone, right? And eventually the players have to make plays. So we got the ball up and down the field. There was guys running wide open. We averaged 6 yards a carry on the ground. I mean, what more can you ask schematically for the game?
Much like the Rams, much like the 49ers, the Seahawks did whatever they wanted to on offense. I mean, it was 5 yards a run. It was 12 yards a pass, whether it was a comeback, an out, a hitch, or flat. They did whatever they wanted. But in those games, you don't blame the defense for the loss. Like, even though the defense has given up whatever the offensive wanted, they're not the reason that we're losing these games, Jeremy.
Not today. When you have a 20-6 lead, you going into halftime, it could have been, what was it, 20-9? Yeah, no, it was 20-12. It should have been 27-12 at halftime, realistically.
Yep.
That's right. It should have been 27-12. Instead, what happens?
Another touchdown,
interception in the end zone. Yeah, and it's 20-16. It's just unbelievable, man. It's just.
Yeah, 20.
And I guess you could say a couple of them may not, but that one was on Baker though. There's no other way to look at that. That pass was 2 yards behind Jarvis. There was nothing Jarvis could do. The last interception was probably on Hilliard, and then the other one, miscommunication. I mean, Odell got jammed up, but Baker can't make that throw. He just can't. You got to pull that back. So
I agree with you. I think as the season has gone along, Freddie Kitchens has improved his play calling. He accepts responsibility, and not in a way that we'll catch the tape, but man, he takes the heat that coaches do. I think he has improved his game management. I know today it was kind of a little suspect with the whole debacle in the fourth quarter about
throwing that flag.
Yeah, whatever that was. From the stadium, it looked like Landry was in. Was everyone kind of upset about that?
It was, there was a few things. I mean, the call there, yes, they were. People wanted him to challenge it in the stadium. People can say whatever they want after the fact. I mean, all the players are looking at him, telling him to throw the flag. Yep. It looked like it just, the problem was it wasn't 100% conclusive because there wasn't a great angle. And, the rules has to be 100% conclusive. But don't even get me started on some of the refereeing stuff. I mean, the blindside block call on Jarvis Landry might be the worst call I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. And I've seen some horrific calls. I mean, it wasn't even close to it. It was nothing. We talk about my dad a lot on the show. My dad's a ref. He said there's 4 things you're supposed to look to, 4 points on a blindside block play. And he said that met 0 of the criteria.
Yeah, it was initiated
how do they
by
make
the
that
defender.
Call? Right. And it wasn't, it was in no way, in any way, but, and that was a 2nd and 15 where we got 14 yards.
Yeah.
We'd have a 3rd and 1 coming up. That was a turning point in the game. That was a big play in the game. And it was just an absolutely horrendous call by another inept looking.
Like that. I think
the problems that,
go ahead, I'm sorry. The Hilliard penalty that took out OBJ's, I think, first down catch. I think that was huge. But still, despite all of that, Jeremy, despite the 4 turnovers, despite the block punt, despite all that,
still could have won the game.
Still should have won the game.
But the thing is, that's the thing is, though, when teams that are well-coached, disciplined teams don't have to overcome 4 turnovers and 10 penalties. 4 turnovers and 10 penalties. I guess you could look that as a quote-unquote silver lining, the fact that we almost beat one of the best teams in the league with 4 turnovers, a -3 turnover ratio, and 10 penalties. But we shouldn't have to do that every game. I mean, what happened? Like we talked about, Baker Mayfield last year, 20 touchdowns and 0 interceptions inside the red zone. What happened? What is the difference? What is going on?
There's a
Chase,
stat
it's
floating
just
around.
agonizing.
There's a stat floating around that 7 of his league-leading interceptions have been tipped by receivers and caught right into the arms of the defense.
Right, and you know what, though? You can't say none of those are Baker's fault because that one in the red zone today was tipped, but that's because the pass was 2 yards behind and Jarvis was trying to reach back to make a play. I mean, that was not in any way Jarvis's fault in the one in the end zone. It was way behind Jarvis. Callaway's last week was his fault. Was Callaway's fault. This one today was on Baker, no matter how you look at it.
There were just so many bad calls in this game. Hearing the stadium just kind of moan. I thought I saw people throwing some things. It was getting pretty ruckus.
I didn't see any of that, but it didn't see that, but it was. I didn't see that, but I'll tell you what. I was thinking that after that call because it did get loud and angry after the blindside block call on Jarvis Landry. And then when they didn't overturn, people in the stadium thought, it was a touchdown, Jarvis, although that play didn't end up hurting us because remember, they go 3 and out, then shank the punt to the 20, and we score 2 plays later.
Yes.
So the non-call to Jarvis Landry didn't actually end up hurting us.
Well, what sucked was not having the challenge for the Metcalf drop.
What one was that again now?
That was in the fourth quarter. We were down by 4. If we would have stopped the Seahawks, this was after the Hilliard interception. So, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Hilliard interception, the Seahawks went to our end zone, did like a team picture. Like there were a couple things that were thrown at them because that was right in front of the dog pound.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, the sucky thing about that Jarvis challenge was it took away the challenge and Metcalf's was a drop and that would have kicked them a field goal.
I think we still had 1 challenge left at that point though. You still get 2 challenges right? Because we only challenged 1 call today.
Then why didn't he challenge that?
Was there under 2 minutes to go in the game at that point? What was the time?
No.
We'll have to check the time on that.
I don't think so because we had 2 timeouts in the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, you're right. So he should have challenged that. Yeah.
I felt like
and it was clearly. In the stadium, I couldn't tell. Did they show on TV? Was that clearly a drop?
Yeah, it was clearly a drop. The people in the booth. They had a terrible game announcing on Fox. They were terrible. They were calling players the wrong names. They were terrible. But
I went home and watched the game again. I know what you're talking about too. You're talking specifically about when they called Callaway. They called Callaway Landry and then did a whole thing about what a good hookup they had. Yeah, I saw that one. I think Moose Johnson, Daryl Johnson's pretty good. But yeah, that was a mess.
But
he could not even believe. I went back. I looked just to see what their reaction was on the Jarvis Landry block. He couldn't even believe it. He could not believe the call.
Ran it in. He was like, "Well, that's what you do when you have 2 scrambling quarterbacks going at each other on Fox NFL." Like, it was if you watched any Browns,
Baker's the opposite. Yeah,
he's maybe ran the ball 3
times. Get Baker to run. You cannot get Baker to run. Today's the most he's ran it all year combined.
Yeah, totally.
Today, so and it was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I tweeted out after the first quarter. I don't know if you saw it. The Seattle secondary is awful.
Yeah,
they're awful. And I don't even know what they were trying to do at times. I don't know why we didn't take advantage more throwing just some quick hitters because the way they were playing Landry in the slot. They had Michael Kendricks halfway lined up, turned towards him halfway between the edge. I didn't even understand the concept, and I'm a football coach. I didn't understand the concept of what they were trying to do. They were giving Landry free releases, and we weren't taking advantage of it. Well, I don't know what was going on there, but it was just there was a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys open on the field today.
I think they were trying with some of the screens that just can't develop for some reason. A lot of the first half, quick slants to OBJ that seemed to be jammed or misfired. Some of them hit, and some of them would get for 30. And so I think they tried, and that's why.
But no, I'm just saying in the slot though, not on the outside.
Oh yeah,
if you looked at the way they were playing Landry in the slot, they were giving him free releases, and he was wide open. There was another one. I don't know if you remember. There was a attempted screen pass to Nick Chubb that was batted down that probably would have went for a 60-yard touchdown. There was nobody. It was set up so well. and someone got, I didn't see who, maybe, Ziggy Ansah, maybe someone got a hand on it, and there was nobody anywhere. It was frustrating to watch, like I said, from where I'm at, to just see so many guys open and so many plays that were just missing. We still scored 28 points. We scored 28 points, but we easily could have scored 45 points today and have been a repeat of the Ravens game.
I was listening to D-Man. This is what D-Man said. He goes, if you would have told me that OBJ was over 100 yards, Chubb was over 100 yards, Garrett had 2 sacks, and we had 28 points, I would have taken that at home against the Seahawks.
You'd have thought we would have won that game. Except I would have liked my chances too. However, I like we talked about it and I predicted it, I knew it was going to be a high-scoring game. I just knew the way Seattle plays now. This is not, like I said, what I say, there's the thing, this is not your father's Seattle Legion of Boom secondary. It's not that team anymore. Yeah. If you look at, remember we talked about this, all their games have been close and they've all been high-scoring.
Yep.
Right? Because that's just how they play now. And Russell Wilson is so damn good. I mean, he is so good. He's like a maestro. Some of these throws, like I said, like I referenced in the 5 minutes there, that throw, I can't even remember who caught it. When he got drilled by Schobert as he let it go, you could not throw that any better. And he knew he was going to take a hit because it was in his face, How he makes that throw, I have no idea. I mean, he's just a phenomenal, phenomenal player.
Fresh off a 27-13 loss to the Pats. You ready? You ready to do this?
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Let's get things started.
My favorite thing, Chase. Can we start with OBJ giving the goat skin shoes to Brady right in front of Baker? Have you seen that picture yet?
Yeah, man. Baker giving the
side. Oh, my gosh. You can't make that up, right?
Nope.
Too much. All right, here we go.
5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
You know what, honestly, Chase, if I'm going to be really honest with you, I feel like I'm stuck in a bad dream and I can't wake up. It's like every single year. How much did we talk about before this year about how excited we were the Browns are going to be good because maybe we could save this next generation of fans? Because in reality, the Browns have lost a generation of fans, as we've talked about, from being bad for literally 20 years, and these fans have all went elsewhere. So tonight I'm sitting on the couch, and I kid you not, I'm taking Hunter, my son, and his buddy to the Dolphins game in a few weeks. And they're really excited about it. But Hunter says to me tonight, he goes, Dad, should we wear trash bags on our head at the game? I'm like, what do you mean? You think it's going to rain? He goes, no. He's like, I heard when teams are trash, you wear trash bags on your head at the game. And I'm like, oh, man. A, that's pretty savvy of him to come up with. But B, it hit you like a ton of bricks. Because one of the big things I wanted out of this season was the Browns to start to reclaim some of these young fans that are leaving, and my son included. I want to be able to I go to all the games. Like I told you, I don't want to have to stop going to the games. I want my son to love the team like I do, and we can do this together as a father-son and then daughter-son activity with my kids. And my kids now are, in on the joke. And it's just a horrible, horrible thing to me. It's like, when is this ever going to end? Why? This was supposed to be the year. The talent is there. We thought the coaching was there. We had John Dorsey running the organization. We thought the organization had turned around. And where are we at now? We're 2-5. We've been blown out 3 times. We are undisciplined. We had a bye week. We thought over the bye week maybe at least they could come out and line up right. Instead, we get 13 penalties, false start penalties again, misalignment penalties again, illegal motion penalties again, the kind of stuff that disciplined teams don't have happen this far into the season, okay? The excuses are over. There's no more excuses. You are a professional football team, professional athlete, professional coaches that are all making a lot of money. To have multiple games of over, double-digit penalties, I think it's the 3rd game of double-digit penalties, is crazy. It's ludicrous. And like we talked about, you had all these weeks of self-assessment. Freddie's been telling us it's turned into a broken record. Freddie's saying we had a great week of practice is turning into the Hugh, I got to look at the tape. Okay, we're all sick of hearing it. I don't want to hear about your damn practice. At this point, I'm not even sure if Fred Kitchens knows what a good practice looks like. Everybody's sick of hearing it. We're sick of the excuses. We just want you to fix it. We want to see it on the field. I don't want to hear about it anymore, Freddie. I want these penalties fixed. Yeah, we had some, breaks, Chubb fumbling, who's only fumbled 1 time in 300 carries, fumbling twice in the first 2 series. That's a tough break. The second one, he's trying to make a play. He's 50 yards downfield. Okay, we're going to cut Chubb some slack because he's the best player on the team. But the stupid mistakes, the penalties, they can't happen anymore. It cannot happen. I'm to the point right now, Chase, that if we lose next week, apathy will have completely set in, and I'm going to start looking for mock drafts. I'm dead serious.
At 2-6, that's it. It's over. It's over. The season's over. If they don't win next week, it's going to be, the chase for Chase Young, chase to, the race to the bottom, because that's where we're at. And it's like I said at the very beginning of this rant, it's a nightmare I can't wake up from. I'm sick of it, dude. I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of wasting my money and my Sundays on a team that doesn't seem to ever improve. That's what I got, Chase.
Jay, and this is just, man, honestly, it's just really sad, man. Hearing, I know you so looked forward to having these memories, creating these memories, and creating this expectation and excitement with your son, and being let down like this. Like, we see all the time that it's just a game, but for so many of us, it's more than just a game, right? It's a time that we get to bond with our families or share these memories with our parents. Maybe our parents have passed, our grandparents have passed, or maybe we're trying to pass this on to our kids or someone else, and to see this product on the field year after year, game after game, after so many broken promises and so much hope that is just empty. It is super sad and deflating, and it's more than a game for some of us, right? It is. I mean, it is, and it's just super sad. And I mean,
you know what? Let me explain this something, Chase. And people say, "Oh, it's just a game." Well, you know what? Everything that you put your time and your energy into is a piece of your life, right? And we have only so many pieces that we put together in the puzzle that is our life, right? We have only so many of those moments and times to do. So if you're someone and this is what you love, this is a part of your puzzle of life. So it's a piece of your life that you can't get back. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I love it, and I still love it, and I'll always be here because I'm a loyal guy. I'm always going to be a Browns fan. But I just fear the thing that kills me is that what we talk about, that we're going to lose my kid. Yeah. My kid already is more into players than he is to a team.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when the team that you are supposed to root for isn't any good. You look for another thing to root for, and you're rooting for, the Adam Thielens and guys around the league.
Look,
and that just bothers me. Me, man.
I think for so many of the fans, we were so excited to not be the butt of the jokes this year. We were so excited to not hear the Cleveland Clowns or taking the Browns this year, whatever those dumb jokes we've heard for the past 2 decades, right? And then to see this just happen on national television with the premier broadcasters, with the best team, honestly, statistically, defensively, probably the NFL scene and who knows how long, with the all-time greatest coach. I mean, I know all these are stacked against us, but to have the 3 straight plays of turnovers and that third one just be like whatever that was after a bye week, like it is just so incredibly deflating. I mean,
it's hard to get mad at Chubb, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, the guy is leading the league in the NFL, right at it. With the game last season, the like we talked about a million times, the put your head down, hardworking guy, and he's trying to make a play, and it's incredible. He does it again, right? Every game he breaks a 40, 50-yard run.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about this. It's almost uncanny. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Breaks another one today. He's just trying to get into the end zone. Doesn't throw a guy behind him. You're in conditions where the ball's slick and the ball pops out. And you saw the look of devastation on his face.
Yeah, he didn't even try to fight for it. He left.
He was just gone.
He got a foot cause a fumble, his first fumble. Like, what on earth?
Kush kicked the ball out of his hand. Was it Kush? I believe it was Kush. Kush gets buried and kicks the ball out of his hands. Either Kush or Petonio, but I think it was Kush.
We talked about this before the
ball
show.
Was fine.
So you can't blame Freddie for a flailed foot. You can't blame Freddie for the dropped catches, interceptions that have been 7 or whatever. But ultimately, Jay, like, it all has to go to someone, and to have 13 penalties after a bye, to be the most penalized team and that not be addressed. Like, it all has to go to someone. And dude, I am done defending Freddie Kitchens. I'm done. I don't want him to, in 2 weeks, whenever we return to Cleveland against Miami, I don't want him to be there. They got to figure something out. I don't care. Special teams coach, what I don't care. I don't want Freddie controlling any more of these teams, man. I really don't.
If there's anybody that deserves it, it's Mike Prefer. I mean, that's the only unit that looks like a professional unit right now, right? Isn't it that just it's absolutely Browns irony, right? That the one thing we were worried about going to the season was our rookie kickers, and it's the one thing that looks like a professional unit, right? The hammer is consistent every week. Our kicking game is great. It's so Cleveland, right? We're expecting the team to be great, and we might have some problems on special teams. Our special teams are great, and the rest of the team is disjointed and a mess. And Chase, they got and you know what? And I think I've used this line on the show before. Remember the Bill Parcells line? You are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
Well, we're a 2-5 team. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We've been rolled 3 times. We had 3. What have we had? 2 losses, I believe, in the first 5 losses that were worse score spread wise than any of Hugh Jackson's losses and all the the 3-35 and all that.
Easy.
It's true though.
We,
Isn't that amazing?
Hey,
We've been blown out 2
yeah.
times worse than Hugh Jackson was ever blown out.
Could the season
think about that.
started any worse, Jay? I mean, could we be in any worse spot?
No. You know what's funny is I did have that very little bit of hesitation, if you remember, before the season started, because it was so tough the first 7, 8 games, and that worried me. I just wish we could have eased into it with a couple of those Bengals games, flop towards the front in Miami, Buffalo. But the reason the schedule was the way it was is because we were the hot story, and they wanted to get us on national TV early. And so that's why our schedule was such front-loaded with tough games, because those were games and that put us in a tough spot. But it is what it is. Good teams at least split with the other good teams, and we're just not a good team right now.
It really is unbelievable. I never expected the season to be like this right now. I mean, it seems lost. Do you want to guess the play where I was out on Kitchens today? There was a certain moment where I was done. Do you want to try to guess what that was?
When he had the person purposely commit a penalty on 4th and 11 to make it 4th and 16 so he could take the punt unit off the field and go for it. That's as bush league as it gets. That's stupid.
Yeah.
It's not even – it's ignorant. Have you ever heard – that's 2 things this year that Freddie Kitchens has done that me, a football lifer, a guy that's coached or played or been around football my entire life, I have never seen anyone run the ball on 4th and 11 or 4th and 10. And I've never seen anybody purposely cause a penalty to go from 4th and 11 to 4th and 16 to go for it deep in your own territory. I mean, the absolute incredible stupidity, if that story's true, and it actually was confirmed by Zagura, right? Zagura confirmed it, so it's true.
Yeah.
Zagura confirmed that story, so that's true. That is sickening. John Dorsey, what are you doing? We've given John Dorsey a pass on this, but you know what? I thought about something tonight. One guy decided to hire a guy who's been a position coach lifer, and that guy seems to be getting a pass here, and that guy's John Dorsey. And I know we all love John Dorsey, but John Dorsey is the guy who put Freddie Kitchen into the job he wasn't ready for ultimately.
Yeah. Whenever that hire happened, we talked about Baker's influence on that hire. And I am really wondering if Baker was just in over his head with all of this. I mean, I know we had a phenomenal rookie season, and we all kind of hook, line, and sinker bought into that. We'll talk about Baker here in a little bit. Because I don't think he played terribly today. But even he had some words in his post-game presser, Jay. I mean, even he was like, all right, this undisciplined, like it's been a cause and a concern.
Yeah. The accountability. I think he said something about, we're not taking accountability for our actions. Guys aren't. And I'm sure that there's probably a specific person that's directed towards, I think. So we'll have to see.
Well, let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know what's funny? A lot of times you can come out and say, it's not as bad as it looks. Dude, it's as bad as it looks. I mean, there's no way around it. The numbers don't lie. Baker Mayfield isn't getting it done. Freddie Kitchens isn't getting it done. The team's a mess. There's no discipline. When you got a safety who comes off the field and he's tweeting from his cleats trying to, threaten local media members, you have Odell in the biggest game of the year and Jarvis purposely wearing cleats they knew weren't allowed. I mean, there's no discipline on this team. It's an absolute mess. I hate to say it because we were all so excited about Baker, but Baker's part of the problem. Freddie's part of the problem. Odell's part of the problem. It's a complete and utter mess. You know what it all comes back to, Chase? This team needed an experienced coach. They needed a coach that had been there before to handle these personalities and to piece this thing together. And, as much as I want to blame Freddie, it's not even just Freddie. It's John Dorsey. We all love John Dorsey before the season. Remember we were talking about building a statue to John Dorsey, how it's John Dorsey's time for a statue? Yeah. But the buck stopped with John on this. We should have went the experienced coach route. You know what? We talked about this before, Chase. It should have been Bruce Arians. If Bruce Arians was the coach of this team right now, with Freddie Kitchens as the offensive coordinator and whoever they brought in as the defensive coordinator, this team would probably be, 5-3, 5-3. Would you say 5-3 probably? Because it's just the inexperience of Freddie at making decisions and the inability to manage these big egos are 2 things that Bruce Arians could have done. You know, it was just too lax. You know, we go back and we laughed about OTAs and how the team just let Odell do what he wanted. And how we said, oh, he doesn't need him. He doesn't need him. You know what, though? It set a precedent. It did. And now there's no discipline. Have you ever seen anything like what Isaiah Whitehead did on Twitter after the game? Zach Jackson had the quote that he was tweets from his cleats. He was still in his cleats in the locker room 10 minutes after the game, and he's tweeting threats at fans and media members. Have you ever seen anything like that, Jace, ever?
No.
10 minutes after a game? It's never happened. It's unprecedented. Have you ever seen this many little things? I love Odell. I still love Odell. He's an incredible talent. But, I mean, a watch, wanting to wear a watch, wanting to wear whatever spikes, no discipline. There's no control of this team. And I've never seen anything like it. And the talent's obviously there. I mean, look, you can look out and see it. Some good stuff did happen in Denver. I mean, scored on 7 drives. We had 10 drives. 7 of them we got inside their 30. We didn't score. We had stopped twice on 4th down. We had 7 drives that went into the red zone. We did some good things. The talent's obviously there. But when it's crunch time, when you're in the red zone, when you have to be precise, when you have to be disciplined, when you have to do things exactly right, we're failing. And I think that all lands at the feet of Freddie Kitchens, Freddie Kitchen lands at the feet of John Dorsey, because it was John Dorsey's pick to keep Freddie. You know how we talked about during the offseason about how they teleconference Baker into these interviews and stuff? They never should have done that. He's a second-year player. He didn't have any reason to be involved in those interviews. He doesn't have the wisdom and foresight to pick a coach. That should have been John Dorsey. You know, Freddie's a great guy. The players love him. I hear all that, you know, but he's probably too close to the players in this situation. They probably needed a guy like a Mike McCarthy or someone who is a disciplinarian who wasn't going to be buddies with the players. You know, they tell you don't be friends with your kids because sometimes you got to be the adult. Same thing with the head coach in the NFL. You can't be buddies with all the players because sometimes you got to be the adult and you got to put your foot down. Where do we go from here? I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. The one thing Freddie got right this week is he said now it's just one week at a time. I mean, if we lose this week, the season's over. We lose Thursday against the Steelers, season's over. Really, the season's probably over now. But the only thing we can hope for is to go 1 week at a time, see what happens this week, see if something changes. I doubt it will, but that's all we can do now, Chase.
You know, I'll tell you what I've never seen before. I've never seen a team intentionally get a delay of game so they can go for it on 4th and 16 like 2 weeks ago. I've never seen a team, Jeremy, get a 12-minute on the field penalty on a kneel down at the end of a half.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
Yep, never seen a team run the ball on 4th and 9 trying to draw.
Well, I can't say that because I'm pretty sure the Browns have done that exact play before.
I've never seen it like it.
So that's what I haven't seen before. And we talked about it last week. I think Dorsey, like you said, gets a lot of blame. He fanned into flame all the hype, all the attention, all the expectation. We're going to wake a sleeping giant. I mean, words from his mouth, he didn't stop it at all. He just let it continue to ball out of control. Why wouldn't you, if you're Myles Garrett, write a letter in the Players Tribune? Why wouldn't you do that? Why not? What do you know? All you've known is the disorganization that Cleveland's had, and then you get this GM who's bringing in players, and he's, you know, allowing you to dream. And why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you allow Baker to gain however much weight or do whatever and make all these, like, why wouldn't you allow him to do that? I don't know, man.
Chase, it goes back to that, though. This team needed a strong disciplinarian. They made, you know, John Dorsey obviously overlooked the fact, or just didn't think it was going to be that big a deal, of all these egos to manage with Jarvis, with Odell, with Baker, all these big personalities. And you put a guy who until the last 8 weeks of last year had never been more than a position coach in 20 years in the league. Think about that. You ever think that maybe there was a reason that Freddie Kitchen never rised above position coach? Okay, so you put him in a position to be the head coach, and he's not ready for it. He doesn't know how to manage his egos, and it's not all the way his fault because he was not ready to do this. And it's clear now. You know, I put out a couple polls today on Twitter, and they got over 1,000 response. And I just to see what people would think, I put out, who would you rather have as head coach of the Browns, Urban Meyer or Freddie Kitchens? Guess what it was? 88%. 88% Urban Meyer. I mean, the Baker Mayfield one, even this, I put who would you rather have the quarterback of the Browns next year, Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow? 1,200 votes, 75% Baker Mayfield. What do you think that poll would have been 2 months ago? 99% Baker Mayfield. You know, it's just it's almost a train off the tracks, and this Sunday could be the moment it comes off the tracks. And there's blame to go around, but I think you got to blame John Dorsey, you got to blame Freddie Kitchens, you got to blame Baker Mayfield. And I know there's still people that get mad when you try to put some blame at the feet of Baker Mayfield, but it is his fault. I mean, it's clear. I saw the pictures today from his press conference right after he got drafted. You're right. He's put on a ton of weight. He looks sloppy. There's no way around it. He obviously underestimated the workload and what he would have to do to get ready for this season. He had a lot going on. He didn't do what he needed to do. I'm not ready to throw Baker Mayfield out. I think Baker Mayfield, he showed it last year. 27. I mean, look at the numbers in the red zone last year. 20 touchdowns, 0 picks. Do you know right now he has the worst quarterback percentage, every single stat you can measure in the red zone. He is the worst in the league when not under pressure, and it's not even close. 6 touchdowns, 10 picks with no pressure on him. He's the worst by a mile. Now, Baker Mayfield did not just forget how to play football, okay? You don't go from that good to that bad. There's other factors. There's got to be. Getting on the same page with his guys, not having that big giant red zone target like Darren Fells or David Njoku. There's a lot of things that go into it, but a lot of it is Baker, and a lot of it is Freddie. And I got a bad feeling it can't be fixed this year. I think it's going to require, and it's probably going to cost Freddie his job. Look, if they go 4-12, 5-11, there's zero chance they can bring back Freddie. They got to go out and get an experienced head coach that can manage egos, and it's going to take an off season of Baker putting in the work with his receivers, with the coaching staff, nonstop work to fix this. Because I just got a bad feeling there's too many problems to fix overnight, and the season's probably over. I mean, for all intents and purposes.
What is Sunday going to be like, Jay? I mean, it's going to be savage out there. I mean,
the Browns are going to be the Bills fans travel. Yeah, Bills fans travel. They're 6-2. There'll probably be 20,000 Bills fans at that game.
Dude, I don't think that.
I've seen
Bills
it.
Fans.
I'm telling you, Chase, I've seen it on a Thursday night game when the Bills were just 500. There was thousands of Bills fans. Bills Mafia travels. It's a 4-hour drive. Okay, Browns fans are selling their tickets. I've seen it all over Twitter today. There is going to be a ton of Bills fans at this game. And if we come out poorly or we play bad, it's going to sound on TV like a Bills home game. You watch and see. Now, I mean, we could always come out. I mean, there's enough talent on this team where we could come out and blow them out. I mean, it could happen. Sometimes talent overcomes, obstacles like coaching. But at this point, I can't pick the Browns to win a single game until I see them do something. You know who had the line of the week? And he said this last week, and when they were trying to figure out a way that the Browns could possibly lose to Brandon Allen, a quarterback who had never taken a snap, Nathan said, I don't feel confident about anybody we play right now because it's the Browns versus the Browns. The Browns are playing against themselves in so many ways, and that's such a profound and intelligent statement if you really sit back and think about it. The Browns are beating themselves with penalties. They're beating themselves with poor execution. They're beating themselves with stupid play calls. Their talent lines up with anybody they play. I mean, you see the 2 catches Odell made, the moves he made when he has the ball in his hands is dangerous, but then you only target him 6 times. It just doesn't make sense. The guy's a freak, and you can't figure out how to get him the ball. It's a mess, Chase. And like I said, I don't know how they fix it in season.
Well, this is where we're at. Baker's going to outlast Freddie Kitchens. There's no way the Browns are going to move on from Baker before they get it, before they move on from Freddie. And he'll probably,
I agree,
even if it doesn't work out, outlast that coach. I don't see the Browns, who have a quarterback who set the rookie record in pass down, who led a Hugh Jackson team to 7-8-1, who's the face of Hulu, who's on program. I don't see the Browns moving on from Baker anytime soon. And so Baker's our quarterback. He's our quarterback this year. He's going to be our quarterback next year. And barring an absolute another train wreck next year, he's going to be our quarterback in 2022. So
I won't
that's
go that
where we're
far.
at.
I'll
So
go with next year for sure, because if this thing keeps going completely south, it's going to be Freddie's going to be the fall guy. He'll be gone, and they'll bring in another coach to work with Baker, and then it remains to be seen. If he's bad again, he won't be back the year after that. But if they get in, because then you've been through 2 coaches, 3 systems, and if you can't get it back to where it was the end of last year, he will be gone after that. But essentially, I agree with you. There's no way that Baker doesn't outlast Freddie. That's 100%.
yeah. So why is Freddie still a coach, Jay? Does
Look,
Dorsey
they're
not
not
want
going
to
to.
admit that he was wrong?
No, I just think there's almost no reason. They're not going to catch lightning in the bottle by bringing Todd Monken up as the offensive coordinator. They're going to let this play out. I mean, like I said, all you can do now is go week to week and, challenge the guys, and they have to improve. They're going to give there's 2 reports came out today that said the Browns are going to give Freddie Kitchen this whole year no matter what. And I think that's probably the right thing to do, even though I think Freddie's in way over his head. But you let this season play out. You see what happens. And if they don't improve at all and it's still a mess, you move on from Freddie. I mean, it is what it is. And you hopefully, in my opinion, I know people don't want retreads, quote unquote, but hopefully they find someone who is a head coach at some level. Because, being a head coach is more than being an X's and O guy as well. A head coach has got to be a leader of men. Coordinators, you got to be an X and O freak, right, to be an offense or defensive coordinator. But as a head coach, it's they say there's only 6, in basketball, they say there's only 6 inches of difference between the assistant coach and the head coach, but it might as well be a mile because it's such a big leap. That's the same thing in the NFL. The leap from a coordinator to a head coach is a giant leap because it requires a different skill set. To be a coordinator, you just have to be a football X and O junkie who knows what he's, knows the sport like the back of his hand. When you become a head coach, you are a manager of men and egos. And that's where I think Freddie was not ready to manage egos, to manage game situations, to manage all of this and still call plays. And, that's the problem. So I hope if they do blow Freddie out, they hire somebody who has been a head coach at least in the NFL or college, someone who has been in that chair.
Look, this sucks, man. These type of shows suck. The state of the Browns, this sucks. This was not what anyone wanted or expected or even envisioned. We did mention like what would be the worst case scenario at the start of the season, and this is probably it. Once again, Browns fans find themselves the butt of every joke online, the butt of every
Macaulay Culkin. We got Macaulay Culkin making fun of us yesterday. That's how bad it's gotten.
Once again, we find ourselves in very familiar territory, except now we didn't see it coming. This was not what was promised. This was not what the team promoted, and this hurts. Jay, does this hurt more than the 016?
Oh yeah, in my opinion, it hurts way more. Because there was no, in reality, we are eternal optimists, so we thought we would be good, but in reality, there was no expectations on those seasons, right? No one really thought that we were going to be good this year. It really kills because we all thought we were going to be good, everybody, and there was reason to think it with the talent on the roster coming off the second half of the season last year, like we did, going 5-3 in our last 8. All of that led us to this, and then when it's like they always say go in low, right? Go in low. Well, none of us went in low. We all went in high, and we had reason to go in high. And now it's like we've been chopped off at the knees, and it sucks. And it sucks every Sunday. It sucks. I mean, did you really think we were going to lose to a quarterback who had never taken a snap in the league? No, nobody. You did. Okay, maybe you thought we could lose, but because you were so down on Freddie. I thought there was no way we were losing that game. I even thought at the end we were going to find a way to come back and win, but I mean, it's just it's part of the whole thing, and it's just sucks.
Let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
All right, let me say this. I'm not going to take back anything I've said about Freddie over the past few weeks as far as he is lost when it comes to situational awareness. It's a mess. I mean, the Browns, I don't know if you know this or not yet, Chase. The Browns, that was the first time in NFL history a team had 8 plays or more from inside the 2 and didn't score, okay? That's an embarrassing disaster. But I'm going to give Freddie credit in one place. His use of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb together was unbelievable. I had no idea until yesterday what a selfless guy Kareem Hunt was on the field. The guy blocked his butt off. And I didn't pick up this. I'm going to give Dustin Fox some credit. I didn't pick up this at the game. I was listening to the post-game show on the way home, and he was talking about just how an incredible blocker he was and how selfless that was the way he played. Excuse me. And I went home and watched the game, and he had 7 or 8 unbelievable blocks. Listen to this stat, Chase. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. Nick Chubb had 11 carries when Kareem Hunt was in the game with him. He had 113 yards on those carries. He averaged 10 yards a carry on those plays. I'm going to give Freddie credit for scheming this system, and I think this system is going to be almost unstoppable going forward. It almost makes me sick to my stomach to think of what could have been if Kareem was healthy the whole year. Let me tell you why. Tony Grossi, of all people, who I've bashed and bashed on the show, said something incredibly intelligent this morning on the Really Big Show. He said he doesn't think this is a passing phase. He thinks this is something that can work because it's almost impossible to prepare for, because there's no other team in the NFL that has 2 running backs as good as those 2. So you can't prepare for this. There's no preparing for having 2 top 5 running backs on the field at the same time. It was like Kareem Hunt he missed a year of football. Literally, the last time he played was November 23rd of last year. He missed a year of football and stepped on the field and looked like he didn't skip a beat. He had 4 carries for 30 yards. He made a ridiculous catch on 3rd down on an out route where Baker realigned him to get the matchup he wanted in the game-winning drive. He blocked ferociously. I couldn't believe it. There's multiple times with him kicking out safeties and corners that sprung Chubb free. It was unbelievable. And the fact that both of these guys are humble and selfless on the football field means I think we have something special with those 2. Now, do I think we're going to win the rest of our games, go 10-6 and go to the playoffs? No, not necessarily. But I think going forward, and I think this could work for the next few years until the money gets out of control between those 2, we could have a backfield of those 2 guys on the field a lot, and it'll be something we haven't seen since the Biner Mac days. The fact that both of these guys are willing to give up carries for the other just to win is incredible. You know, I know Kareem Hunt's taken a lot of stuff. He's made a horrible mistake off the field. We have all made horrible mistakes. Let the first one of us who has not made a mistake in our lives cast judgment. He made a mistake, and he paid dearly for it. He paid to the tune of millions of dollars. You know, kicked off the team that was a team with the most talent you'd ever seen on offense. It could have been a dynasty, and now he's back here making amends. He said in the post-game interview, which was an incredible interview with Nathan Segura, that he almost cried 3 different times during the game, thinking about what a blessing it was to have this second opportunity and be doing it here in Cleveland, where he's from. I know a lot of people on Twitter and social media go out and say a lot of horrible things about the guy, and some of it is rightfully deserved, but I thought it was awesome to see him prove on the field that he's a selfless guy who's learned a lesson, who's ready to go forward. So I hope going forward, him and Nick Chubb, along with Freddie scheming it, keep this going, because I think it could be the start of something special. What do you think, Chase?
Kareem Hunt was electric. There's no doubt about it. And at the expense of getting Kitchens too much credit, was this the plan all along? And was he just piecing together an offense that was missing Njoku? Now, I know I said he's not going to miss Njoku. Piecing together an offense that really wasn't using one of their most productive receivers. I should piecing together an offense that, you know, even through training camp, because Hunt was playing through training camp until he got hurt. Like,
right.
Is this a thing where Kitchens was like, man, if we can just get through the first 7-8 weeks, then we can really do the offense that we installed all training camp, that I know we can run well. Like,
Okay.
Is this week 1?
I can't say that for sure, but look, if you look back to last year, okay, remember when Freddie first took over the Atlanta game where he used 3 backs a lot, did all kinds of creative stuff with them. The Carolina game, same thing, lots of creative stuff with those 2 backs. I'm not going to give him a pass and say that was the plan, but the fact that he was able to put together a game plan this week to use both of them and use both of them so effectively, it was funny because I listened to Todd Monken's press conference the other day, and he actually downplayed and said, oh, no, you can't just throw 2 running backs out there like that. Well, guess what? The 2 running backs were in on 42% of our snaps together, right? So apparently you can. And yes, there was times that Baker was moving Hunt around, but that's to be expected in your first game back. And the play on 3rd down, the catch, and I said this live, and now I've heard 3 or 4 people say it. That was a 12-yard out that, and Baldy said this, Brian Baldinger in his breakdown this morning, that had to be thrown before Kareem came out of his break. Okay, the fact that Baker and him could get on the same page like that is special. And the fact that Kareem catches the ball like a wideout, you know, that's a hard
really
catch. To cut out like that towards the sideline in stride, make that play on 3rd and long. I mean, you can't guard him with a corner or a safety. He showed that.
Well, in the post-game interview with Segura, Kareem Hunt mentioned that play. He said Baker sent me out there, and I make my cut, and the ball is halfway there, and I was like, oh, okay, let's roll. And he was pumped, like he was surprised that Baker put it there. You know, one of the things that it was honestly truly impressive how the Browns are able to utilize Chubb and Hunt, and it's hard not to get excited and carried away. I know the Browns fans are experts at getting carried away at anything good.
Oh yeah,
but it's hard not to get carried away to think what this offense could be. You have Baker, Chubb, Hunt, OBJ, Jarvis, and if that was the play that got Higgins rolling this year, Jeremy, I mean, I don't know. I'm afraid to say what I think could happen because.
Well, let's see what happens Thursday, you know, and we'll go from there. But let me say this. Before the season, when everyone said we have 2 top 5 backs, I kind of rolled my eyes like, we'll see what's up. I don't know. It's a fact. We have 2 top 5, okay, maybe 7 at the worst backs in the NFL on this team. I don't care. It's a fact. Here's a stat for you that you're not going to believe. Nick Chubb has, through 9 games now, has 911 yards rushing, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that is the 6th best start through 9 games in Browns history? You know who has 1 through 5 and number 7? Jim Brown. Okay. Jim Brown has 1 through 5 and number 7. Now Nick Chubb with 900 plus yards. Now you add Kareem Hunt to the mix. No one knew how he's going to look. He's coming off that sports hernia surgery. He actually said that's why he was hurt before he came to camp. He never was right in camp, which is funny because Agura and Bo said in practice he was almost unstoppable out of the backfield catching the ball, and he was hurt that whole time. He did not miss a beat. I mean, it was really truly incredible to me because I didn't think he, come out looking like that. You're exactly right. He was electric every time he touched the ball. So you literally do have two top 5 to 6 running backs in the backfield. OBJ not having a great year, but still on pace for over 1,000 yards. Jarvis Landry also on pace for over 1,000 yards. And oh, by the way, the guy that you didn't think was important, Njoku, which I think he is important, especially in the red zone, he just got his cast off last week. He's eligible to come back off the injured list in 2 weeks. So he could play. Actually, I think it's the Miami game he could play. And I think that'll help a lot in the red zone, having that big body target that Baker liked and missed down there so much. So, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I don't want to say, yes, we're going to win out or anything crazy like that. I want to see how we play Thursday against the Steelers defense. It's been unbelievable. But I will say this, as much as we bash Baker, in the 3 games since the bye, Chase, I don't know if you're aware of this, he's got 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He's completing 67% of his passes, and he has 750 yards, and that is against the number 3, number 7, and number 9 teams in the league against the pass.
And that one interception was that shovel pass.
Right. So maybe Baker has figured something out. Maybe they're starting to click. And, all it takes is a little confidence. I mean, maybe that yesterday, like you said, with Higgins, all that pulls it together. And maybe we come out Thursday and put one on the Steelers. And then we have, a 10-day break until we play the Dolphins at home. So if we win this one, it is going to start getting exciting because then we get the Dolphins at home. We move to 5 and 6. As of right now, we're only 2 games out of the 6th playoff spot. And you know who's in the 6th playoff spot right now?
Pittsburgh.
And we have 2 games against them in the next 3 weeks. So we can make up those 2 games.
I know winning cures everything. Winning absolutely is the cure for all things in a locker room. But I don't want to give Freddie a pass, man. I'm
not going to.
With a Kareem Hunt gone the 8 weeks, ran a timing play that just by design, if it doesn't work, it's a forward pass. It's not a fumble, but how disastrous that could have been. Browns fans left the First Energy Stadium when that was returned for a touchdown. And it's funny. I was telling people around me, I'm like, guys, that's getting overturned. He flipped that forward. And they're like, no, not here. We'll never get that. And people just left. Well, and by design,
it was pretty
that
unbelievable.
play is as like a fail safe, just in case that is a fumble.
Right, exactly. That's the exact point of that. College teams started doing that 4, 5, 6 years ago for that exact reason. Exactly. Instead of handing it, just flip it forward a little. That way, if it does get dropped, it's no big deal. But
the fact is, he is not doing himself any favors. He could not get it into the red zone. You talked about it earlier. However many to go in goal, we got 0 points. That timing play, why? Like there are things a lot of firsts. There's just a lot of firsts.
Let me say this, Chase, and I said this at the game, and I tweeted this during the game. I wish they would have give Kareem Hunt a chance on one of those to get on the edge. He didn't. He was actually only in on one of those 8 plays. I wish, and I know that Chubb has better straight line speed, but it's clear that that Hunt is slipperier. Okay, obviously that more slippery. Okay, yeah. When he carries the ball, and so he might have done a little dip and out run to get to the outside, got to the edge. Because Chubb, when he takes those those little short pitches they do, he always tries to cut it back. He doesn't trust his speed to the edge ever on those, if you notice that. It's probably the one issue I have with Chubb is it seems on those outside runs on the goal line, he doesn't trust his speed. We always tell our kids at the youth level, trust your speed to get to the edge, okay? So I think that, letting Kareem get one of those, and it could just be a matter of he hasn't worked that much in the red zone yet because he's only been practicing for 2 weeks. Now, I hope that the next couple of days they'll get him up to speed before this game on that. Excuse me. But that remains to be seen. But I hope that they get him up to speed where we can use them both down on the goal line.
I think Freddie also is getting overlooked. He got punked by the Bills. I think they were going to go for it at the end of the third quarter when Freddie wasted a timeout when you knew that was just going to come back, that we were going to need that timeout. Do you remember that play? Like, it was fourth down, the Bills. It was like 4th and 4. And the Browns had no clue what was going on. Schobert was lining up at free safety.
Yeah, that was right.
It looked like the Bills were going to try to
I was yelling. I was yelling at them to call timeout because that was a cluster out on the field. Really trying to figure out who was going to go where. And, yeah, you're right. Schobert dropped back into the safety position. So I was glad they called timeout. Yeah, it stunk, but I was glad they did call timeout there to get it together.
But I'm saying this, as a coach, you have to be ready for that. If you know that it's 4th and 4 from the 42 or whatever, wherever they were, like, you have to say, hey, like, we need to be ready for a 4th and go, even if they try to call us offsides. Like, why were they so, like, they wasted a timeout? I'd never seen that. Like, I'd never seen a team like be so unprepared and then get the play clock down to like 2 and then the defense call a timeout at 2 at the end of the third quarter.
Oh, no, the game clock was down to 3 seconds. That's right. I remember I was yelling to call timeout, and then I thought that exact thing. I go, oh, wait, they were going to run the quarter clock out. We have to call timeout there.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point, man. Good point.
Like,
good point.
Every week there's a new thing I've never seen a coach do. And dude, you are
we literally have seen – it's going to take – like, we've talked about this, man. This was not supposed to be a learn-on-the-job year, right? Because we were supposed to be ready to play, and that's exactly what's happening. And that's why I still will stick to what I said last week, that they should have hired someone who is ready to take the job, manage the egos, and do the big lifting that needed done. But it didn't happen, and we go from here. And now all we can do, like I said, what I tell you, it's week to week now. I'm week to week. Can't look ahead, anything, just week to week.
So I'm going to zag a little bit on you there, man. I think he is managing the egos. I don't think that's been the biggest concern. I think it's natural for a team to be 2-6 to kind of show just like a little to be upset. But I don't think Baker, Jarvis, or even OBJ has been a huge distraction from the outside. I know we've made things like Baker's attire at the post game, whatever. Obviously, he's upset. And honestly, the watches, cleats, I don't know. Maybe it did. But I don't see a me like on the field persona. And so in my perspective as a fan, I just see, okay, so maybe he hasn't lost the locker room yet. Maybe he has.
That's fair. That's fair. No, I don't think he's lost the locker room either. I think the players like him. We talked about that. But sometimes I think that's not what you need. The players didn't like Bill Parcells. You know what I mean? And the players didn't like Bill Belichick, but they respected him. They respected what he had to say. Now, we're still incomplete on Freddie. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. Like I told you, I didn't really think he'd get fired during the season. I think they'd give him one full season and then go from there. So we'll see what happens Thursday night, and then we'll see what happens next Sunday against Miami. But right now, all we can do is go week to week, see how it plays out. And I really think, and I saw a couple national guys tweet about this as well, that they think the Browns discovered their formula this week, and it could be dangerous if all goes well these next few weeks.
Needs to happen. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so, the funny thing was at the game, me and Chase actually went to the game together for the first time ever. We sat there, and the game had lulls. Obviously, the Browns offense, like it normally does, comes out hot, goes through a lull. But the one thing that I liked about the game before the theatrics at the end was the Browns actually out-physicaled the Steelers. How many times over the years have the Steelers came into our house and embarrassed us physically throughout the game? So that was one point that I thought was great, was the fact that we actually out-physicaled the Steelers in our place. And when we'd won the game was over. Now the theatrics after the game, it was ridiculous. There is no doubt about it. There's a whole lot of ridiculous stuff I thought happened in that last 8 seconds, starting with the fact I believe this all started because Myles Garrett was stat chasing, to be honest with you. Myles Garrett wanted a cheap sack at the end of the game. The Browns had just got those 2 sacks. He was looking to pad his stats. Fine and good. I understand that. He wants to set the Browns record. He wants to get to 20 sacks. He wants to be a Pro Bowler. He wants a shot at Defensive Player of the Year. I understand all that. But to lay all of what happened after that at the feet of Myles Garrett, I think is insincere. I really do. If you watch it, the replay over and over like we all have, Mason Rudolph was ticked. I'm sure he was ticked about the fact that he threw 4 interceptions on national TV. I'm sure he was ticked about the fact that the Steelers' 4-game winning streak had came to an end. I'm sure he was ticked about the fact that he just got planted by Myles Garrett for the 3rd play in a row. He'd gotten hit, and he felt that it was a late hit and there was no flag thrown. All of that is true. But what happens after that, I'll admit, is inexcusable. You cannot use your helmet as a weapon on a football field. There is no doubt about it. Myles Garrett should have been suspended, in my opinion, 4 to 6 games the rest of the season. That's where I think it'll end up being 6 games in the rest of the season. But some of the hysterics by the media, the national media, the Mike Flores, Pro Football Talk, the Adam Schefter, all this stuff about him needing to spend time in jail. They need to give me a break. And you know what? And that's where I have a huge problem with some of the local media. I think the local media jumping on this bandwagon up, we can't even enjoy the win. This overshadowed the entire win. He should be brought up on trials. I can't root for this team anymore. All that is garbage. And I think what that is they are chasing approval of the national media. There's only been one local guy that has actually stood up and said what he honestly felt, and he's taken a ton of heat for it, and that's Ken Carman. Because I really honestly think a lot of it is just that. They're chasing the approval of the national guys. Was it a horrible situation? Yeah, it's a horrible situation. But there actually has been. It's not unprecedented. There has been similar situations. But I just think to say that completely destroyed the win is wrong. I actually ran a poll today. Chase saw this. I got almost 1,500 votes. I asked, after Thursday night game, do you love the Browns more, less, or the same? 56% of fans in that poll said more. 38% said the same. Only 6% said less. And that's where this disconnect between the local media and the fans really shows itself. Because if you listen to all the local shows, every single one of them, I can't root for this team. They're impossible to root for. This stains the season for me. It's hyperbolic, and I just disagree with it. What do you think, Chase?
Well, I think there's a lot to talk about. And to help us talk about what is being called the biggest sports story of the year, we have Kenny Rhoda, host of the Kenny and JT show. You can catch it 3 to 7 Monday through Friday, 1480 WHBC in Canton. Also hosting on the Next Man Up here in the Press Play Podcast Network. Kenny, noted Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Orange is Oranger.
How about this? It's a rivalry again, right? I mean,
yes.
For how long it wasn't a rivalry. It's like, okay, which is worse, Ohio State and that team up north, or the Steelers and the Browns? And when you look at the numbers, it hasn't been a rivalry for about, 20 years. So now we've got a rivalry again, but unfortunately, it comes with, the end of the game situation. When you look back at that, everything up to that point, the Browns had dominated that game. You're absolutely right. They out-physicaled Pittsburgh. I mean, there was no James Harrison for Pittsburgh. There was no Hines Ward hit on Mohamed Massaquoi or Colt McCoy or anything like that. The Browns, to that point, did everything they needed to do to win the game and send a message to the Steelers that the Browns are indeed back and this will be a rivalry again. And then Myles Garrett done lost his mind, went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and decides, all right, I'm going to not only take the helmet off of the quarterback, Mason Rudolph, but then I'm going to try and beat him over the head with it. And he's lucky he didn't hit with the crown of the helmet on top of Rudolph's head, or he would have been tried and he would have been in jail, and this could have been even worse. So he's very lucky that he got away with just this indefinite suspension and a fine right now. So you look back at this, the Browns were the better team. They were the more physical team. They are better on paper. They proved it on the field. The rivalry is back. But it was interesting, in listening to you guys talk about this, the stat chasing. I believe that's true. I think Myles Garrett at the beginning of the year said he wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. And how do you do that? You rack up sacks. Well, what better way to get sacks than when the game's already in doubt or not in doubt, and you have a few minutes left on the clock, And so you go after the quarterback and try and get as many as you can. So some of this, yes, Mason Rudolph should have been suspended for a game, in my opinion, for starting it. But it escalated because of Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett was in there because he was stat chasing. I agree 100% there.
Okay, so I'm going to push back and zag a little bit on you guys here. Why on earth was Mike Tomlin throwing with 17 seconds left, down 14 after 2 straight sacks, Kenny? Why is that getting overlooked? What do you blame Myles Garrett for? Playing his position, what he's supposed to do?
You never give up. That's a sign of weakness.
You know what Freddie Kitchens would
James
say?
Freddie, what the
Freddie
hell? That's
Kitchens
what he
would
would
say,
say.
I didn't put my players in the best position to succeed. If you're Mike Tomlin and you have a quarterback who's thrown 4 interceptions, who's gotten the snot beat out of him, why, if it's a high, if there's a lot of palpable energy already, like, dude, get out of there.
I'll agree with this, Chase. It was on 3rd and 25. I would agree with that.
What are you
the
doing?
First 2, I probably would have ran a draw right there and just ended the game. I would have kept. Of course, Kenny's exactly right. You play to win the game, right? You play to win the game. Hello, but yes, you play to win the game. So on 1st and 2nd down, I would have agreed. I would have kept trying because you're sending a message to your players. We're not going to quit no matter the circumstance. Now, when it gets to 3rd and 25, that's a little different. But I'm not going to lay this at the feet of Mike Tomlin. I don't think it's Mike Tomlin's fault.
No,
I think it's, and I actually don't think this one act is Freddie Kitchens' fault. Yes, the Browns are an undisciplined group of players. There's no doubt about it, but I don't know how you stop a guy from losing his head like that at that point. So I'm not even going to blame him. I'm going to blame Myles Garrett singularly for what the ridiculous helmet swing at the end of the game. It was ridiculous. But I think part of the reason, too, fans are so incensed now is this complete character assassination of Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, for all intents and purposes, is a great guy. Look at the stuff he did in the offseason. There's stuff people don't even know about him, like him showing up at local high school football games and local high school football events. And he's a good guy that had a horrible moment. I always say this: if any one of us' worst moment was caught on film, how would we look? Right? Every single person that's had a horrible moment, Myles was caught on film. Now, that all being said, I actually agree he should be suspended the rest of the season. He should get 6 games. I think that's probably ultimately what will happen if they appeal it. They'll probably cut it down to 6 games. He probably are, and the playoffs maybe. I don't think it's going to go into next year. But the whole situation, you're right, it's a mess with Myles.
So this is where we're at. The Browns and the Steelers, for this incident, were fined $250 G's each. The teams were fined that much. Garrett
change this.
Yeah, but so that's a ton of money. Where does that go to? Like, who is in the league office?
Charity. That's why they do that. They make it so much because it goes to charity. So at least the charity where money is in a pretty they're getting a nice chunk of change. To the Rooneys and to the Haslams, I mean that's chump change.
Tax write-off. That's tax write-off. It's a tax write-off on top of it, though.
Yeah, Pouncey suspended for 3 games. Larry Ogunjobi 1 game. Myles Garrett obviously has been really, aside from the Kaepernick workout, it's been trending he was on SNL. I mean, when you make SNL,
he should send Kaepernick a gift basket because he did take all the heat off Myles Garrett there for a little bit.
Briefly. Briefly. So he's for the rest of the season suspended indefinitely. There's an appeal. He's meeting on Tuesday. Kenny, I can start with you. Do you feel that that's going to be upheld, or what do you think is going to happen with that appeal?
Why? How can he appeal it? What is he going to say? I didn't swing the helmet. I didn't mean to do it. I was caught in a bad moment. I mean, I guess technically you do this. I don't know. I've never been in this situation, so I guess you do it for maybe somebody's going to show you some leniency. I don't know. I mean, it's on film. The eye in the sky don't lie. Dude lost his mind, swung the helmet, and so what you have to do is go there, be remorseful, show that you're sorry for your actions, and hope that that indefinite suspension doesn't carry over into next season. But he's done for the rest of this year and the playoffs should the Browns get there.
And I think that's the goal. Using his charity work from the previous seasons, even what happened last month when he got punched by a fan, and that and I think
it's pretty incredible, Chase, that a random fan came running up to his car and punched him, and he didn't do anything. And yet, out on the field, he swings a helmet like a wild man. It's just a strange situation.
No,
Here's what they're gonna argue though, Chase, at the appeal. And this is, I saw this yesterday night. I tweeted it, and then Ian Rappaport tweeted it today. The same thing. The players' union is going to appeal that there is nothing that allows for an on-the-field incident to be an indefinite suspension. So they're going to be pushing for an exact number. This is according to the CBA and according to the players' union. There's no indefinite suspension allotted for an on-the-field incident. So they're going to want a number coming out of this, is what I'm hearing.
And there is precedent. There have been fights. Someone swung a helmet at Richie Incognito like last preseason or something. I don't even think he swung it like a madman. He didn't swing it until Mason Rudolph charged after him. And even then, he was surrounded by 3 people.
I don't know, man. It was
listen, the automatic villanation or whatever that word is, the automatic
vilification
of Myles Garrett after this incident, it was instant, and it was almost unfair. I mean,
guys, I've never seen this before. I've been covering this. What years were you guys born? I've been covering football since 1982. All right, I was
born in '81.
There you go. See. I have never seen this. I've covered high school, college, and the pros, and I've seen Dwayne Rudd throw his helmet. I've seen crazy stuff happen at the Browns. I've never seen this. That's why, and you heard the players, reacting on TV and on Twitter, social media, everything. They've never seen anything like this, where a guy literally takes the helmet, swings it as a weapon, and tries to hit the guy in the head. So that's why this is so unique, and why everybody is still talking about this. And JT and I will still be talking about it on the Kenny and JT show, probably Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if not further into the week.
It's a tough look for the NFL for all around. It's not like the NFL has had just a walk through the park. Like, this is just, and that was another thing I was worried about in their overreaction to get something right. Are they going to just lay down the hammer and completely blacklist Myles?
Listen, Kenny is right. It was on national TV. It was a spotlight event, okay? Yeah. It's a Thursday night game. Yeah. They had to come down fast. They had to come down swift. They had to come down hard. Probably, to me, the closest thing I ever witnessed in person to that was when Cortland Finnegan and Andre Johnson ripped each other's helmets on, just pummeled each other's faces right on the field. That was probably the closest thing. I know I didn't know about the incognito thing, Chase, until I saw the clips. It was very similar. It was just a preseason game. It wasn't on national TV. He got his helmet ripped off and got hit in the face with it. Now, it was a preseason game. It wasn't on Thursday Night Football with everybody watching. The Browns are box office. Love them or hate them, everybody watches the Browns because half the people want to see them fail and half the people want to see them succeed. So the whole country's watching, and that happens. We knew. I tweeted out the second I saw that he had actually made contact, I said, Browns win, and Myles Garrett's gone for a long time, because that was my initial reaction, and that is probably right. He deserves to be suspended. It is a big deal. But I also understand why the fans have circled the wagon at such a degree for Myles Garrett, because I think you start seeing people saying things that aren't true, and this is out of character for the guy, because the guy is a good guy who's done a ton of things in the community. So that's why you see such a massive pushback from the fans now, and why I think you see a split between the media and the fans in Cleveland.
And remember this too, he was the number 1 overall pick, guys, right? So you're expecting huge things from this guy in year, what is this, 3 or 4, whatever it is for Myles, right? Year 3. And then this is what he's going to be remembered for until he does something better than this, until he leads the Browns maybe to a Super Bowl championship in his MVP in the Super Bowl or something along those lines. This is what he's going to be remembered for, unfortunately. And as far as Rich Incognito goes, guys, that guy's a piece of work, and I think some people probably were happy to see him get whacked like that. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, he's not the number 1 overall pick, and he's got a bad reputation to begin with.
Kenny, what was the national broadcast? What was that like? Jeremy and I obviously at the game. We had a different experience than you watching it. Was it just
they lost their minds?
Yeah.
At first, they didn't know what happened. Then when they saw the replay, you hear Troy Aikman going, "Oh my!" It's. And these are guys that have called games, played in games, and so they were losing their mind too. And let me say this about Mason Rudolph, all right? As a Steelers fan, when I saw the replay of this, he started it. Okay, he was pissed. He got pummeled again, and now Myles is probably pissed too because he didn't get the sack, right? So he's driving him into the ground a little bit more, and he's rubbing it in.
Yep.
Okay, and now no flag was thrown on
Correct.
the play, so it wasn't technically a late hit, but it was.
Yeah.
And I think Rudolph looks and he doesn't see a flag, so he tries ripping the helmet off the back, and then he tries kicking him in the cojones a couple of times and everything, right? And if Myles Garrett simply gets up, rips the helmet off Mason Rudolph, and then just flings it and walks like a mic drop, right? He flings the helmet and just walks to the tunnel because he knows he's going to get ejected from the game. He is a hero, much like Marcus Hall was when he did the double bird flip at Michigan for Ohio State, right? So if he doesn't swing the helmet and he just throws the helmet or kicks the helmet, and walks off the field, we're talking about Myles Garrett from a Browns perspective as one of the greatest Browns players ever. Look what he did against the Steelers. But he reacted for whatever reason, man. That switch was flipped, and he just went, like I said earlier, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And so, unfortunately for him, he had an opportunity to have a monumental moment, and instead, it's become such a negative moment that he's going to have a tough time erasing it. But Mason Rudolph, he should have got a game, in my opinion. I thought he should have been suspended and fined for one game for what he did. And the fact that he went back after Myles Garrett, that to me was the reason I think he should have for sure got a game. Trying to rip the helmet off, and then he went back after him, and that's when Garrett swings at him and hits him in the head. So Rudolph is not innocent in all of this, and Pouncey got what he deserved. I thought he was going to get 4 games. They gave him 3 for punching and kicking Garrett. You have to do that, and I have no problem with that at all.
Myles Garrett's going to miss $1.3 million in salary for these 6 games. Mason Rudolph fined $32,000, I believe, when it's all said and done. Jeremy, our experience live was really unique. So this is what happened. There was a fan came down to our level, a Steelers fan, and he was waving a Browns flag. So
right next to us is what happened. He had lost a bet. And the Browns won. So he said he'd come down in his Steelers jersey and wave a Browns flag if the Browns won. So that's how we kind of missed it when it happened at first.
Well, we missed it till we heard people go, like
freak it out
and on, like scream, and we turned down, and all of us. I looked and saw the helmet fly. The stadium was completely full still. Steelers fans were leaving. It was the energy was palpable. Everyone was getting ready to go nuts, and then this happened. And it was just wild. Jeremy, did you see the video of Baker on the sideline watching it?
I still haven't seen that. It's funny. Like I said, I initially tweeted something out that I deleted because I didn't see that he had made contact with the helmet. Okay. And then once I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is a whole nother level. I thought he had just swung his helmet because like I said, we were distracted by the fan. And then I think I showed you actually, once I finally saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this video. He actually hit him with the helmet.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness. So yeah. So then I was deflated. I mean, honestly, obviously leaving the game, I was deflated. I was actually surprised. I don't know if it was because it was a night game and everyone was hammered, but the Browns fans are going bananas.
Dude,
like it was the greatest thing ever. And I'm walking to my car and people are partying. I'm like, oh, and I'm feeling dejected. It's a weird situation.
As Larry and Myles walk into the locker room, man, people were cheering.
They were.
I don't know if they understood the gravity of the situation, but. I mean, people are probably really hammered, but people were cheering. OBJ was telling everyone to get up. Like, it was a really weird moment. There's a video of Baker shot from the dog pound side, and he's on the side, and his hands are just up at his helmet, like at his head, like, oh no, what are you doing? And he doesn't move. Yeah. Chubb is just like frozen. You can see him in the frame too. So
that's Chubb all the time though.
Well, you got to remember Baker and Rudolph were buddies too,
friends,
from playing against each other, in college. And from the Steelers' perspective, this is a bad move. I wish they would have suspended him. Hodge is a better quarterback than Rudolph, and the Steelers might have a better chance of playing him. Rudolph been suspended this week, so I was kind of disappointed he didn't get at least one game because he sure as hell isn't the answer at quarterback.
So instead of having these 5 hot minutes with Jeremy and Kenny being about the Browns win and the playoff picture, we just spent 20 minutes talking about Myles Garrett, as is everyone else in all of media.
Hey, and you know what that proves right there? That it was a big deal. The fact that we still can't even talk about the game. I mean, of course it's a big deal, but just how big a deal it is that we are still a couple of days later talking about it.
Yep, and I'm sure it's not going anywhere soon. It's sad that when we talk about the helmet game and Browns lore, we have to ask which one now.
Yeah,
Just
right.
because it's
That's a
just
good
Add
point,
it to
Chase.
the list, man.
Yeah.
I was,
Add it
and
to
you know
the
what?
list.
You want to hear the common denominator, Chase? I was at both of them. How about
Wow.
that?
There's 6
I was
degrees
at
of
both.
Jeremy. I mean, come
Yeah.
on now. Forget Kevin Bacon, right?
Right.
Whenever Jeremy goes to a game, crazy stuff happens.
It's funny though. No, actually though, Kitty, I've been almost every game over
Were
the
you at
past.
Bottlegate? Were you at
I was
Bottlegate?
at Bottlegate. I was
Dude,
at the Dwayne Rudd game.
that's the
I was at
craziest.
the
Bottlegate to
Blizzard
me
of
is the
'07. Unbelievable.
Bottlegate was just insane. I was on the
Yeah.
field, working members of the media. We were allowed, like, with I think 4 minutes to go down on the field and watch the last 4 minutes. So I'm on the field when this stuff's happening, man. And all of a sudden, Quincy Belidat Morgan drops or catches or whatever whatever happened,
Yeah.
and then the bottles just started flying. Dude, I ran for cover there. I wasn't about to take one to the noggin. From the Browns fans. Thank God they were drunk and didn't have good aim, because I don't think they hit anybody down there, but that was insane. But this is a close second with the way it ended from a shock value. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
So does this have an official name? What is the name of this incident?
I'm sure it'll come. You
Kenny,
know
you're
what's
the
funny,
master
Chase?
of names, Kenny.
Yeah.
You won.
You
Yeah.
know what?
I haven't heard
Miles,
anything.
how about Miles Mayhem? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
That's pretty
it's
good though. On the
something.
spot.
Yeah, we're gonna get something. The drive, the
Yeah.
fumble. Red right 88. Something will come.
Bottlegate.
Is there not a T-shirt already made by one of the graphic places
I
or
saw
whatever?
a 3 miles T-shirt. I
Is
haven't
there
really
one?
seen
Okay.
one.
Of course there is.
Yeah,
We lead the league in corny t-shirt companies, and half of them have sponsored us at some point in time.
Have you
But-
guys seen the rapper Hazmat? Do you know who I'm talking about here? Either of you guys?
I don't.
You need to type in Google Hazmat Brown song.
Okay.
This
yeah, I have. He's all yeah.
this
It's
guy,
awesome.
after every game, writes a song for what happened in that, and I can't wait to hear
Oh my
this
gosh.
week's. He's phenomenal. We played
is.
one of his the Bills one when they beat the Bills. We
Mhm.
played it on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC. So I can't wait to find tomorrow's. And he does a video. It's not just a song; it's a video. So check him out, Hazmat, on Twitter and Instagram or YouTube or whatever. You guys are gonna howl. This guy's really, really, forget like one song for the whole year. He does one every week.
Oh wow.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Chase. Guess what we got?
What?
A playoff chase, baby.
Meaningful
We got a
football in
playoff
December.
chase.
Let's
It's
go.
coming.
Let's get things started
Let's go.
with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
You know what's funny, Chase? It drives me nuts, and we've talked about this before, how fans do not understand that in the NFL, it doesn't matter how you win. It's just winning, right? I saw so much stuff this week. I can't believe the Browns give up 24 points. Just stop. It's the NFL. Both teams get paid. The Browns won a big game to pull them within one game of the second wild card spot, and I hear fans crying about how they won. We put 40-plus points on the board, okay? We were up 28-0. It was our biggest lead since like 1989 at halftime. Enjoy it. You have to enjoy the ride. You have to realize that in the NFL, both teams have players that are getting paid millions of dollars. No matter how bad a team is, there's some good players on that team that can make plays. The Browns won. You know what's funny, Chase? The game almost went exactly how I predicted it, didn't it? I think I predicted like 41-14. It was or 41-17, something like that. At one point, that was the exact score. They scored a garbage touchdown late that meant 0. The Browns were up 28-0. They dominated the game. It doesn't matter that the Dolphins made some plays in the second half. That happens no matter what. Okay, I think the early in the season when the Dolphins were struggling incredibly bad, the Patriots beat them 30-16. This is a big win. It's a good win. We got to show off all our weapons. Guess who scored touchdowns this week? Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, all scored touchdowns. That is exactly what we needed to see going into the Steelers game. We had, 460 yards of total offense. Jarvis and Odell combined for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. Nick Chubb went over 100 yards again. This is exactly what we needed going into that Steelers game. There's no such thing as an ugly win, and this, my friends, was not an ugly win.
You know, I was texting one of my best friends. He's a Tennessee Titans fan, and I said, Connor, is this what it's like when your teams are supposed to take care of business? Like, I can't remember, honestly, Jeremy, a time where especially when the Browns are favored by more than 10 points, but then for us to take care of business and do what we were supposed to do, I mean, that's what elite teams do, Jeremy. Where
some of our fans forget that we were 131 over just 2 years ago, right? I mean, let's win games and be happy about winning games. I will never be so arrogant that I'll be upset over a win. I'll tell you that.
You know, we took care of business. We didn't even play down to the competition. I mean, there was a little lull there.
It was 28-0. You got up 28-0. Watch any NFL game where you get out to a big lead. There's going to be a natural lull. And like we said, the other teams get paid. They're going to make a couple plays eventually. When you're up 28-0, you can't play the exact same defense that you played up to that point. It's just not how it works in the NFL. Really, you're trying to shorten the game and run the clock out so no one gets hurt. It was a big win. It was a dominating win. Don't let anyone tell you differently.
You know, Freddie's got to figure out this third quarter thing. This is the second straight game that we're just like, what is going on here? But we got out to a lead early, and it felt good. Jeremy, I think only like playoff – I mean, some of these even playoff teams, they don't do this like they're supposed to. I know it's the Dolphins, and everyone looks at
look at this. Think about this, Chase, compared to us. Remember when we were 1-31? We had the moniker we almost always almost win. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because we were always close with good teams. Right? Because it's the NFL. Even though the worst team in the league has a ton of talent, the worst players on the worst team were the best players in college. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody has talent. Take the win. Be happy. We dominated. We put up 28 points before they scored. Baker was fantastic. At one point, he was 13 of 15 with 3 touchdowns. Be happy.
Yeah. Final score, 41-24. These are Baker's stats. Baker's played lights out really the past month and a half. Baker, 24-34, 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, which again was off OBJ's hands, a little behind him on the slant.
Yeah, that's strictly on Baker. That you can't throw a slant that close, that hard, that behind. That was on Baker, but that's all right. 1 bad pass, big deal.
Depends on your role of receiver. If it hits your hands, you got to catch it. Just depends on where you stand. I know it's a bad throw. So anyway, 118 passer rate, absolutely dropping dimes all over the field. Jeremy, you start looking at the Browns schedule, and I'm not trying to get too far ahead here. We got the Steelers this Sunday. We'll talk about here in a minute. The Bengals after that. The Cardinals after that. The Ravens.
People keep saying they're worried about the Cardinals. The Cardinals over the last 6 weeks are the worst passing defense in the league. The worst. They're giving up a passer rating on average of 110. Okay?
If we beat the Dolphins like we did, there's no way we should struggle against the Cardinals.
They'll be like the Dolphins. They'll score some points on us, but we should be able to score at will on them. Similar kind of game. The whole season hinges on this Sunday, and this is a Pittsburgh team we're coming up against that is way more beat up than us. We're going to get Olivier Vernon back. We're getting Larry Ogunjobi back. They are missing Pouncey. They're missing Ben Roethlisberger, obviously, and now they're on to a 1AA rookie, Duck, named Duck. Juju's not playing. James Conner said on the radio today he's not even close to being ready. This is a team with no weapons, missing their center, a 1AA quarterback. They will not be able to score if we don't give them the ball in a position to score. There is no excuses this week if you're the Browns. You need to win this game, and you need to win this game convincingly.
Let's pump the brakes on the Steelers talk. We're going to devote a whole back into this podcast to the
Steelers. Yeah. I know.
I want to spend some time and just enjoy this. We scored 28 points before the Dolphins even scored any. If we did this against a team like the Dolphins who have won 2 games, we played the Bengals who are 0-11. Now, granted, they just started Andy Dalton.
Big deal. Doesn't matter. Their defense is awful.
Jeremy, it is not unrealistic to look at this and say, man, we beat the Bills, a very good Bills team somehow, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we finish 10-6, 9-7? Like, that is not unrealistic. If we took care of business like this And if this team is rallying together
Yep.
and saying us against the world, one game at a time, 1-0, dude, watch out. Because
Listen,
Baltimore
this is
comes
it.
to Cleveland,
Yeah.
and you don't want to play in First Energy Stadium. Well, you don't now, right?
Well, I think if we win this game, I think our floor is 9-7. If we beat the Steelers this week, I think we're going to go 9-7. And if you start looking at the matchups with the teams ahead of us in the playoffs, something's going to give. The Titans and Raiders play each other. The Raiders play the Chiefs this week, in Kansas City. So the teams in front of us have the Bills have like the toughest schedule in the league, starting with the Cowboys tomorrow. So, we got a real shot. It's legit. It's 28% now, but it jumps to 51% if we win Sunday of us making the playoffs. So I just this week, man, if we can come out and take care of business, do what we should do this week, it's going to be awesome.
I'm trying to find this tweet. I couldn't find where it was. With Baker's win on Sunday at First Energy, he moves into like third all-time of the all-time winningest quarterbacks in First Energy Stadium history. Did you see that tweet?
It's like Ben Roethlisberger is one, and Derek Anderson's two.
Yeah,
and then Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco is on that list. Like,
yeah, he is. He has 5 wins.
Andy Dalton is on there.
And so all of a sudden, Baker can really quickly, as early as next season, jump into really, I'm not going to say elite company because that's a sorry ass list, but it's just a lot of good things. We are in the midst of our franchise quarterback growing up, becoming an NFL starting Jeremy, he's still a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I know.
There's no doubt.
Whenever you look at
I'm back on. When you look at he's played exactly how he played last year over the last 5 weeks. It just what happened was they underestimated how long it was going to take for them to gel. That's what happened. They probably didn't, like we talked about, they probably didn't put in as much work as they should have. They probably didn't anticipate it being this rough, but now they're there. They're there now. You watch Odell at practice. They're loosey-goosey. They're ready. They understand. They got it. They're ready to play some ball. I'm excited for Sunday. I'm excited for the rest of the season to see how this offense goes. And 3-0 since we got Hunt in there. I saw a stat today. The Browns are averaging in the 59 plays them two have been on the field together. It's 7.9 yards a play, which would be first in the league.
Yeah. Chubb against the Dolphins, 21 attempts, 106 yards, a touchdown. Kareem Hunt, his first rushing touchdown for the Browns, 8 attempts, 37 yards. You had a tweet, Jay, about the return of the bell cow running back. You want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, because the last few years they've just been talking about the bell cow running back is a thing of the past in the NFL. Well, that's not true. It's back. It's back this year in a big way. There's already, I can't remember the exact number.
It's like 211 and 17 or something like that.
There's 10 running backs already that have 200 or more carries already this year. Yeah. They're averaging around 20 carries a game. The top, here's another stat for you. The top 7 running backs in the league right now were all drafted in the first or second round. Remember the whole people saying, oh, you don't need to draft a running back high. Just get one anywhere. They're a dime a dozen. Well, that's trend starting to turn as well. The top guys are performing at the highest level. Surprise, surprise. And like I said, there's 10 plus guys averaging 20 carries a game. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. We looking at who else scored here. I mean, this really could not have worked out any better. If you were looking to spread this evenly, OBJ, 6 receptions, 84 yards, a touchdown. Jarvis, 10 receptions, 148, 2 touches against his former team. Just an incredible offensive display. And
the play, let me tell you about the play was beautiful when Odell Beckham scored the touchdown on the 39-yarder. The whole stadium. Now, our boy Hollywood Higgins was open as well, but the whole stadium saw him break open, and you heard a collective Odell from the crowds, like all at the same time before the ball went in the air. And then Baker throws an absolutely gorgeous ball and touchdown, and it was a thing of beauty. Odell's touchdown celebration was cool. It's like he stopped and looked around like I've never been here before. It's nice to get here. It was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate, a bell cow back is a running back, a workhorse back who takes all the carries, doesn't really split carries. And normally they have around 250 or 275 attempts per season. There was a trend where running backs, they didn't want to wear them out. We talked about this on the pod earlier. Like I was fine with Chubb getting 15 or so carries for that reason, for his longevity. But you're right, Jay. They really are focusing on this run game, and I don't think that's really going to lighten up as we near the end of the season, especially as it gets colder and we get to some of these playoff type atmospheres. You want to control the clock. You have anything else for 5 hot minutes, Jay?
No, but let me touch a little bit on that. You think coming in here in a couple weeks, December 8th, that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to want to tackle Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb repeatedly over and over and over again? No, that's what's so great about having two of these big, tough, strong, hard to tackle running backs. In the cold, people are just not going to want to tackle them. Yeah. It's going to be a very, very fun to see. Now, the Arizona game is going to be different because we're going out to Arizona, and I'm sure our players are going to love that, especially Odell and Baker and, those guys getting to air it out a little bit. But yeah, the bell cow running back is back, and we got two of them, baby.
I don't want to get too far ahead, but looking at the other teams in the wild card, we are the most dangerous team, and no one would want to play us. We have the best quarterback, the best running backs. And I mean, you look
receivers.
At Bills, no way. Raiders, I mean, I don't know how.
Nope.
I see them dropping off. Texans, I even think people would be more afraid to play us than the Texans. You're telling me you're scared
of the Texans. I would say the Texans are the one because they got DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson. I mean, they got a great quarterback, great receiver.
It, though. They have no line, no running back, and not even a second receiver.
No, they do. Carlos Hyde's having a great year. He's 9th in the league in rushing. He's having a career year, and Duke Jackson has been decent in the third down role. I would say if you're rating, and they're going to win that division anyway, the wild card's going to come down to Buffalo, Oakland, us, Tennessee, the Steelers, but I don't really believe the Steelers are in there. That's your teams right there. It's going to be two of those teams.
I tweeted the moment we traded Duke Johnson. I've pinned it to my profile. The Browns will play the Texans in the playoffs, and Duke Johnson will fumble the football. And
that's not out of their own possibility right now.
I really feel good about that prediction. That would I'll pin that up with the rest of my other genius Browns predictions that have come true. Well, I'm still pretty fired up. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let's get started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
I'm going to say this week, we've bashed on Freddie a lot, but I think this week is a pure example of us being out-coached and outclassed as an organization, to be honest. The Steelers are just a better coach team and a better organization all around. There's a story, the Browns came out and they looked really good early. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb running the ball. I think they had 91 yards combined rushing at halftime. There's a story that the Browns were given looks that they hadn't given all year in that first half, and the Steelers hadn't seen them. And Mike Tomlin pulled some people aside and essentially in the dirt changed what they were doing on the fly. And apparently it affected the Browns. He was able to pick up what they were doing and run with it. Now, that's the coaching aspect of it. Now, the organizational aspect of it, the Steelers were able to overcome the distractions of the week and win the game. Because you know why? They're a better organization than us. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying the Browns can't get to a point in the next few years, even with Dorsey and Kitchens, where we maybe catch up or start to catch up with them organizationally. But right now, the Steelers are a superior organization, as much as that pains me to say, and they have superior coaching. Mike Tomlin is just a better coach than Freddie Kitchens. Hey, Chase, do you know how many times the Browns ran the ball in the second half?
6.
Do you know how many carries Kareem Hunt got?
0. You know how many yards per carry Kareem Hunt averaged in the first half? 7.4.
There you go. Now, why on earth did they not run the ball at all? Yes, I know they got behind 17-10. A touchdown lead on the road in a hostile environment with bad weather, with questionable weather, does not mean you have to go away from the running game. A 7-point lead does not get you out of your comfort zone, out of what you do best. Why not keep running the ball? You did it. You had 91 yards rushing in the first half. 91 yards. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Another thing, Chase, I know I blew up the myth the other week of the bell cow running back being gone because it's back in a big way. The top 3 offenses in the NFL are also the 3 top rushing offenses in the NFL right now? The 49ers, the Ravens, and the Seahawks. 3 teams that play a ton of power running. The 3 leading rushing teams in the league are also the 3 leading offensive teams in the league. Now, I know Freddie, we've talked about this 100 times. Being a run-first team is not in his DNA. And I know everybody says it's a passing league now. Well, those 3 teams are showing you that maybe there's another way to win and another way to play offense. And when the Browns have the two of the top 10 running backs in the league, I don't even think that's a question at this point. They need to run the ball. And to run the ball 6 times in the second half really is a joke in a hostile environment in bad weather on the road in the biggest game of this franchise had in 10 years. And Freddie essentially PPs down his leg in the second half, and the Browns lose. It's just, Chase, it's coaching and it's organization. What do you think?
Sunday was a sucky day. Browns lost. I was knocked out of playoffs in 2 of my fantasy football leagues. It was just losses all around. And
I won both my games, by the way.
And I feel like Freddie, he saw Duck Hodges throw it deep a couple times. And he's like, man, we can do that. Here, watch this. And really just kind of got caught up in the moment. I have no idea why he didn't run the ball. I have no idea why we went from dominating the time of possession to it was almost like a complete flip in the second half.
Right. And it wasn't like the game ever got out of hand. It's one thing if you get down 2 scores, right? If you get down 14, 17 points right away, that's one thing. Down to 1 score does not mean you stop running the ball. I even heard him say, he wanted to take, even after the interception, the Terrence Mitchell interception, Freddie said, we want to take a shot in the end zone. 3 straight passes. Did a pooch cake, right?
Yeah.
No runs. Doesn't make any sense to me, Chase.
I think ultimately this all falls on Freddie. I think our defense also, I saw a lot of Browns Twitter saying, they don't have the will to tackle. They're not playing with heart. The defense, I don't know, but they couldn't tackle. It seemed like every time the Steelers needed 7-8 yards, like I was not confident in a 3rd and 8 defensive stop for the Browns all game. I really wasn't. I wasn't worried so much about Duck Hodges, or whatever his name is, throwing for 20 yards, even though he had a couple long throws. I just felt like they were going to get it. So, I know they had injuries. I'm again, never seen Sheldon Richardson bang his head against the heater, and he was out for a couple plays. Chad Thomas just goes down with whatever, like some random back injury. It seemed
had
really
a sack. He had a sack, though. He had a sack.
Yep.
You know what? And the Demarius Randall thing, I've talked about this on Twitter a little bit. Demarius Randall, obviously mad. I mean, the whole thing has to be that he doesn't have a contract. I think what happened was he missed practice on Thanksgiving. I think he took a private jet and flew to see his family on Thanksgiving. He tweeted about it. A tweet about not having seen his family on Thanksgiving in years. So I think that's probably what happened. That's my guess. Putting himself before the team. And you know what's funny? If you look at the 2 games we lost, both a second string and third string quarterback, there's 4 plays in these 2 games that you could point to that if he would have been playing in those 2 games, we might have won. And those 4 plays probably cost us our season. In the Denver game, you had the Noah Fant long touchdown where he ran over Whitehead, and Demarius Randall makes that play. He's a great tackling safety. We've talked about that. You had the long touchdown pass in the corner on Denzel Ward, and then the long passes in that game. And I heard Freddie say, "Oh no, it wasn't him. Those were in the middle of the field." But if you remember in the first Steelers game when he knocked the dude's blood out of the guy's ears, where the guy bled out of his ears on the long play, that was on the sideline, and he came over to make a play on the ball, right? So who knows if he would have been able to make a play on those if he was out there. The point is that once again, organizationally, drama and not having control of our locker room probably cost us a game, or could have cost us a game. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and this was a take I read this morning from our friends at 330 to go by Hank. He's on Twitter, Hank F3 at 330 to go. He said we get on Freddie for not being a leader, for not being a coach, for not doing coachy things. But then whenever he does implement discipline, for whatever that looks like with Demarius Randall or whatever, we jump on him for saying that we should have played him. Now, we don't know exactly what happened. That's never going to be public, at least anytime soon, unless Randall really goes off the hook and spills all the beans. But if people are saying control your team, put put the team before yourself, and then a player does this, I mean, can you blame a coach for having like morals and, hey, this is what we're going to do?
No, I'm not blaming Freddie for that. I'm blaming the fact that there's been so many of these things that the locker room is wild. Yes, Freddie finally decided to take a stand now at a big moment, and I understand that, and I respect the fact that he did that. But the fact that it got to this point in the first place, I mean, just start looking back at the unbelievable stuff that's happened this year. The tweets from the cleats where Whitehead was, threatening to kill people. You've had Antonio Callaway, a guy we thought was going to be a star, cut in the middle of the year. Deval Lawrence cut in the middle of the year. Today, Chris Smith cut. Chris Smith cut today. We've had so much crazy stuff. Rashad Higgins mysteriously not getting the ball, not getting to play. I mean, there has been just drama after drama. And we didn't even talk about Myles Garrett bashing Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet.
We didn't talk about Jesus Tony. We didn't talk about the 4th and 9 draw.
Bakers. We didn't talk about the fat quarterback.
That's my island first. Everyone's jumping on my island. I called that out before the season started. Thought I was crazy.
And then, the fat quarterback controversy. Like you said, the draw play, it's like that was 10 years ago. The draw play on 4th and 9. I mean, it's just item after item after item after item. And the buck has to stop somewhere, right? Does the buck stop with Freddie, or does the buck stop with John Dorsey? Or does it stop with Jimmy Haslam? That's what you need to figure out. And going forward, I tweeted, the most Browns thing ever would be we go out and bury the Bengals and then smash the Cardinals and get back into the playoff picture. And then the Ravens come in and absolutely destroy us and, dash our hopes in a few weeks. But, I mean, at this point, realistically, 6% chance of making the playoffs. It's not out of the realm possibility because no team has ran away with that second wild card spot, but it looks dim. So here we are again, semi-meaningful football coming up, but it should be very meaningful football. If just a few little things had been done differently by the organization.
We're going to touch on silver linings and Pat Sussman game balls here in a minute. Jeremy, I saw odds today for next Browns head coach. Actually, that's what did Joe Banner say it's going to be none of them? I think you had also some conversation with Joe Banner on Twitter.
I think that was the next Panthers head coach you saw. Because Ron Rivera, they fired their head coach today.
Well, let's talk about the Browns. So I tweeted today it's going to be a very Dorsey thing when he doubles down and keeps Kitchens as head coach. Do you think there's a possibility that Kitchens is retained?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Jimmy Haslam took a lot of heat for not, providing continuity. I have this little theory that maybe Mike McCarthy really was John Dorsey's first choice, but he told him he didn't want to coach. You want to take a year off. And Dorsey said, you know what? We'll give Freddie a year, see how he does. It doesn't work. We slide in the veteran, who they say right now is assembling some guys to be assistants, making calls around the league to gauge interest on that. So maybe could be it. I don't know. But I think there's definitely a chance. I mean, if he wins out, they probably won't fire him. If they finish 9-7 and win their last 4 games, including sweeping the Ravens, it'll probably be tough to get rid of him. I don't see that happening, barring the Ravens sitting Lamar Jackson that game because they've already locked up home field. But outside of that, I don't see any way that you can say that he's fired for sure. Now, if they go 1-3 and they're 7-9, and that's actually a step back from last year with better players, I think there's a real chance Freddie's not back. But to say, is there a way that he'll be back? Yeah, absolutely. There's a path for him to be back.
We lost to a third-string Steelers quarterback with third-string running back and receivers I've never heard of. And we're staring at Andy Dalton, who the Bengals now, they're like, what are they, 3 games back, like lead on the first pick? Like they're going to play to win. They're going to try to punch us in the mouth on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I still think we're going to win that game. Here's why I think we're going to win that game and the Cardinals game. Well, the Cardinals just got absolutely slaughtered by the Rams, who hadn't done anything on offense in 2 months. The Browns are built with enough talent to slay bad defenses. Look what they did to Miami. I think you're going to see similar things happen against the Bengals and against the Cardinals, because that's just the way this team's built. They're superstars, so they have a ton of talent, but their scheme is not perfect. But when you're playing against a bad defense, you can make it look bad like that. Look what happened with Miami. What did Miami do this week? They went out and beat Philadelphia, right? In Philadelphia. So the Browns are good against bad defenses. So I firmly believe that, like I told you before the Miami game, the Browns are going to come in this week and beat up on the Bengals, and then they're going to go out to Arizona and put on a show. And everyone's going to get really excited. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody's healthy, if we go out to Arizona and drop a 45 spot and Jarvis and Odell both have monster games, and we're all like, oh, look at this. We're coming back home 500 versus the Ravens. One of those deals, because that's just the kind of team this is. So I think we're going to beat the Bengals. To make a long story short here, we're going to beat the Bengals Sunday, in my opinion.
No, we'll talk about this on Thursday or Friday. I don't think we're going to
Okay.
win another game. I think we're going to lose to Cincinnati. I think we're going to lose
Bold,
to
baby.
the Cardinals. How hurt is Baker? We don't know. What's the point of pushing Baker through a hand injury? What's the point in risking injury to any of these other guys when you know we have talent? We see glimpses of a powerhouse every single week, and then it just falls to crap, and it's all on coaching. We're not going to win another game. I don't know why he hasn't fired Freddie Kitchens yet. See, it didn't take me long to get back to my Sunday afternoon attitude. Here we are. Here we are. We just lost to Doug Hodges. Who cares who starts with the Ravens? Who cares? Literally.
Yeah, true. We
any
might be better
quarterback.
off. We might be better off against their starting quarterback, right? The way we play against backups.
I mean, the MVP, sure. That's beaten by 30 points again. What a freaking weird win that was, right?
Yeah.
Like our two best wins, the Ravens and the Bills. The Bills could win the AFC East. That's not out of the question.
Because I mean, it's not remotely out of the question because all of a sudden the Patriots are in a free fall, right? Offensively, their offense has been horrible for about 5 weeks. Is this finally the time that the age has caught up with Tom Brady? It could be. I mean, look, it was going to happen. He's 43 years old. They don't look crisp. They don't have great skill players on the outside. It's just it is what it is. They've let a lot of guys walk away. I saw Josh Gordon make a couple incredible catches yesterday. Patriots probably could have helped. Probably could be helping the Patriots right now. They're only one now. Like you said, the Bills are only one game back of the Patriots in the East. So yeah, the Bills realistically could win that division.
So I just what happened in Pittsburgh once again. Pittsburgh is completely just destroying our team. There is no offensive line for the Browns. Somehow, some way, Duck. I mean, I know we didn't have any pass rush, but he didn't seem pressured. It was not.
And I don't even think he wasn't good. He just had two incredible catches by James Washington, right? I mean, and the one Denzel Ward had perfect coverage. He just never made a good play on the ball. It was stride for stride with him, and then the great catch in the end zone. So great plays, two big plays essentially, right?
Yeah. I freaking hate the Steelers, and I hate that they ruined a season
Me
again.
too.
And I can't wait to just. Oh my gosh! Well, this is 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, Victory Monday? ?
It is. Cut it out. Stop the dumb stuff. I'm so sick. Oh, that didn't feel like a win. Shut up. The win, baby. We went 1-31. It's hard to win an NFL game. The guys on both teams get paid. We won. Stop with this millennial whining, Chase.
Well, let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powell, presented by Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
That's two things I want to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is just that. I'm so sick of it. At the game, okay, I was at the game. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I was hanging out two guys that played tight end for Kent State. One was 6'5", one was 6'4". I'm 5'7". That was an awkward session of hanging out. I never felt more 5'7" in my life, if you know what I mean. I felt so short. but it was a blast. But listen, Chase, leaving the stadium, watching the game there and leaving, I wasn't on Twitter very much because I was with buddies. I didn't know that everyone was like all upset about the win. Like being at the game, it just felt like a win. We won. Yeah, I was upset they didn't run the ball in the first half. Yeah, there was some weird stuff that happened, but it was a win. I left there in a great mood. Drove home, got on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Everybody just so upset. Look, I've said this before on this show. I will never be so arrogant that I will not enjoy a win. I enjoyed a win. It's a division win. Do you know it's the first time since 2002 we beat the Bengals, Steelers, and the Ravens all in the same year? Okay? A win is a win. We won the game. Okay, now on to the drama, the OBJ drama. I'm split completely on this, Chase. Part of me thinks it's smart to trade him. And yet I don't want to bash him and say he's not that good. Like I heard Rizzo go on his whole rant today, him and Hammer saying he hadn't been good since Obama was president. Look, last year he averaged 85 yards a game. That was good for 8th in the league from wide receiver. He had almost 1,100 yards in only 12 games. He was on pace for over 1,400 yards. I think we'll all agree that a 1,400-yard, 9-touchdown season from a wide receiver is really good. As a matter of fact, that would be the second best year in the history of the Cleveland Browns, by the way. So to say he's not good is a complete myth. I heard them say he never gets open. He's always open. If you sit, Chase, you've sat where I sit, right? You can see everything that happens, right?
Yeah.
You can see him running open all the time. The guy is open, period. OBJ's bad season does not fall squarely on OBJ. Baker has some of the blame in this, and probably Freddie has some of the blame as well. Now, all the drama, I do hate the drama. I'll be honest. I kept overlooking it because I think OBJ is such an immense talent. And then the other part of me, Chase, I'm like arguing with myself over this because there's part of me that hates the fact that he was asking people to come get him. But then I know how guys talk. I could see him going up, walking up to Tom Brady saying something like, man, I'd love to throw to you. And him saying back, yeah, come get me then. You know what I mean? Like it could be an informal joke. You see that kind of stuff all the time. So the part of me is really, really split on this. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, well, his trade value sucks. You wouldn't get a third round for him. Give me a break. I can tell you right now, the Patriots, the 49ers, who had said openly that they were mad that the Giants didn't give them a chance to counter the offer the Browns made and they could have gave him a better offer. The 49ers would love to have him. The Patriots would love to have him. The Eagles would love to have him. They don't have any receivers. So if you're trying to tell me there's not a market for Odell Beckham Jr., who's, by the way, still has 4 years left on a contract, I say you're crazy. There is definitely a market for Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I swing back to the other side. How are we going to replace him if we do get this thing fixed, right? I mean, it's just one of these things where talents like OBJ do not walk through the door every day. And whose fault is it that he hasn't had a great season? Do you fault Baker? Do you fault Odell? Do you fault the coaching staff? You know where I stand. I think we have 2 of the top 10 backs in the league, and we should be a run-first team that operates mostly out of the play-action game, which I think Odell would be great for, taking more shots downfield. Baker has not taken the shots downfield he took in the last 8 games last year when we were running a lot of, double tight sets with 2 receivers and running play action from under the center. So I don't know. It's such a tough scenario. And yes, I hate all the drama that comes with Odell Beckham Jr. I really do. However, I'm torn on the fact that we've had such a devoid of talent at the wide receiver position. Where do we go from here? What is your take on this, Chase?
I think the OBJ drama is much ado about nothing. And here's why. We have LSU wide receiver coach Adam Henry. We have his best friend in Jarvis Landry. And it seems like a competent quarterback in Baker Mayfield. I think the hysteria around OBJ drives clicks. It drives traffic to your site, to your blog, to your article. And I think it's completely bogus, Jeremy. I really do. I get more fed up about trading OBJ talk than I do should the Browns tank talk. I really do. And that was pretty humorous last week. I think now, again, I don't know Baker at all. I don't know his relationship to those, fairly common knowledge. It seems like a really good community around him. I don't know what that relationship is like right now, but here's what I do know, that it is a environment that he's never had before. He's never had this support, this accountability, or this community in any other team when he was with the Giants. And now, like, it's okay to be upset for losing. I think everyone, including fans, everyone's just like, man, this season, the what if season, this season is not what we thought it was going to be. It's okay to be upset. I think he has a situation where he likes the people that he's around. Again, this is all just per conjecture. I just think he's upset with the outcome. I think he's upset with Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
I heard that he was injured before the game, and I was like, oh man, the Browns are setting up to shut him down if we lose this game. Like I saw the pieces start to fall into place that if we lose against the Bengals, they're going to shut him down, and that's going to be it. But I think he was injured. I mean, he was injured at the start of the season, whether it was a sports hernia or whatever.
But
I don't
did
know.
Did you see also though? Did you see though, Chase, that he actually told Josina Anderson that he might not need surgery? So there's actually conflicting reports on whether he has. If you have a sports hernia, it has to be fixed with surgery, right? And so he told Josina Anderson, according to her, that he may not need surgery after the season. Yeah. So there's a little bit of, conflicting reports and interesting stuff going on here. And I think that's part of, I think you're right. I think OBJ's frustrated. And why wouldn't he be frustrated?
Right.
Everybody thought this was going to be, even him. You remember him saying before the first game when people were asking if him and Baker had enough time to get on the same page, and he goes, he's like, ask me after the game if you think that, like cockily, like he's gonna have a huge game. So I just think it's frustration. It didn't go as he thought. And like you said, he has a good support system here. Him and Jarvis are best friends. He's got his coach from college. And I just think it's frustration. If he comes out and has 2 big games in the last 3, I bet you we don't hear a word of it. If they find a way to upset the Ravens and he plays a big part of that, I think this all goes away. But, we have won 4 of the last 5.
That's an insane stat. That is an insane stat to really believe that we've won 4 of the last 5. It does not feel like we've won 4 of the last 5.
We're 6-7. We have a chance to have like the Browns, second best season since they've been back record-wise.
Unbelievable.
And
hey,
it
I was
feels
thinking
completely,
earlier, was this the season
different.
that the Zagura got suspended? Was that this season as well?
The 8-game suspension. No, that was last year, right?
Okay.
No, that was this year. No, that was this year.
Against
Golly, this season has been so long. No, wait. He missed 8 games.
It was
no,
this
that
year.
was that had.
It was against
yeah,
the
that
Jets.
was this year. Because Dustin Fox filled it. My goodness, this thing's all blending together, doesn't it?
Anyway, so I
can't remember if it was this year or last year.
I thought about that this week, and I was like, man, in all of these talks, I'd not seen that on any list or anything. That was just another thing. Another thing, Baker Mayfield's comments at the end of the game, I think, were really, really telling and interesting. Again, looking completely disheveled, sounded like we lost. He didn't sound like we won. I haven't seen a post-game speech, Jeremy, yet. I mean, if we've won 4 of the last 5, I haven't seen one post-game locker room celebration. Have you?
I did. The ones I think it was last week's somebody shared it. I saw it the other day. It was, not inspiring in any way.
I mean, the first, they're not going to show the Pittsburgh locker room.
It might have been the Miami.
It
might have been the Miami. It might have been the Miami game, the Miami win. But it did get leaked out by somebody. But yeah, it was nothing, nothing that was all that memorable.
Baker knew throwing the medical staff under the, what that meant. I think that was a sign to OBJ.
I think the opposite.
Hey man, I got your back. I'm frustrated too. And I think Baker took one for the team there. I really do.
I think the opposite. I think that when he said it, he wasn't thinking about the ramifications of that. I think it was just him just saying something, because that's what he had that apology out on Twitter. 20 minutes after
it was
the
in his
press conference,
drafts, dude. It was in his drafts.
I don't know. I don't think it was planned. I think he just said it, and maybe you're right. Maybe it was him sticking up for his boy. Whatever the case may be. I think it was a bad play. I mean, I don't know. The Browns training staff, by all accounts, has been excellent. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't have a good, strong opinion on that. Except that I think it was a mistake. We'll just agree to disagree.
I would be floored if we traded OBJ. I think it'd be a bad decision. I think he's one of the elite receivers in the league. I think paired with Jarvis, they make an incredible team. I think they open up things in the running game. I think him buying cleats for the entire team. I think he might be one of the most misunderstood athletes in the NFL, Jeremy. I really do. I think he's incredibly passionate. I think he loves to succeed. He loves to execute. And when that doesn't happen, he's really passionate. I think he loves
I agree.
He loves being here. I mean, he bought the team. He understands the toll that he brings. He understands the package, the media. He understands that. And I think that's why he's trying to, buy everyone these shoes to say, hey, I understand what this looks like. I'm sorry. In his own unique way. I would be floored if they traded him. I think if we traded him, it would be a terrible, terrible decision. And I let him play out his contract, let him grow with Baker, get rid of Freddie. My God, I think it all comes back to Freddie. I'm done with Freddie. I don't care. He needs to go. I'm seeing Ron Rivera halftime speeches that get me fired up. I'm seeing
let me see the Mike McCarthy video.
Mike McCarthy, that's making me want to cry.
Yeah.
And, hire him on the spot. He's having weekly meetings with his coaching staff. They're not even on a team. They're just keeping up with the league.
And he's paying them. He's paying them out of his own pocket. He hired them. Crazy, right?
That last question where it said, "Why are you doing this?" And did you see when he got choked up?
Yeah.
I
he cried and
understood that so much. This summer I went through kind of like a job change. And I understood that answer, even though he didn't really give an answer. I understood that when it's in your blood, when it's something that you are just built to do, and your family knows that, and you believe that that's what you're placed on this earth to do, you just have to do it. And he didn't say that. I can tell there was a lot of just unfortunate conversation situations. either of them is fine. Anyone but Freddie, Jeremy. That's where I'm at. Anyone but Freddie. Josh McDaniels, sure. Lincoln Riley, whatever. Coach Day, sure. Anyone, dude, I'd hire freaking you, Jeremy. Whatever. Anyone but Freddie. That's where I'm at. And I think it all comes down to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And then even on that now, I'm a little. I mean, what has Freddie been dealing with behind the scenes that we don't even know about? And then the front office is being so quiet. It's such an interesting thing. I think I said one time I read that we don't know because it never became public that Freddie only got a 3-year contract. I don't even know if that's accurate because it's never been public. But what if this really was a trial? Well, would they give Mike McCarthy a chance to recharge his batteries? I mean, that's a legitimate possibility, And if Freddie does great. We won. If he does horrible, we fire him and bring in McCarthy. Yeah. So I know where you feel on that. And it's just, it's so tough because to me, it's so blatantly obvious with Chubb and Hunt that they should be the focal point of the offense, And they're just not. And only run the ball, what was it, 3 times in the first half? I know they had the pick 6, and that takes away a possession. Because of the pick 6, so you have one less offensive possession than you would have had. But it doesn't make sense. You're playing the worst run defense in the league, and then you come out Chase. Then you come out the first series of the second half and go right down the field doing nothing but run the ball and score a touchdown. It just doesn't make sense.
How can you say he's not the focal point of the offense when he leads the league in carries?
I'm saying the two of them. I'm saying they should be between the two of them. We should run the ball 35 times a game. 35 to 37 times is what I would do. So Chubb is the focal point. I'd make Chubb and Hunt the focal point. And we don't run any. Listen, we never line up with Baker under center and run play action out of that. I just watched the Carolina game from last year. First play of the game when he hit Perriman on that 70-yard pass down to the 5, under center play action.
Man, are we missing Perriman right now? My goodness.
Yeah, I know, right? He was a big-bodied receiver that we don't have. That's a good point. I was talking about that with my buddies at the game is we are lacking that big-bodied wideout even with OBJ and Landry. They're both guys that are around the same size, right, OBJ and Jarvis. We do not have that big-bodied receiver that you send across the middle to get 7 tough yards and get belted after the catch, We are missing that. That's something they got to look at in the offseason.
We're missing that.
Whether they keep OBJ or not.
And the short burner to take the top off Callaway.
Yeah, we need a Connor Cup type, Andy Isabella type, one of those guys. There's 2 or 3 things that are really missing from this team. And all that being said, we're probably going to finish right around 500. So we went from 1-31 to 16-16. So there's improvement there, and we got to fill a couple more holes. You can't fill every hole in the offseason, but we'll see what happens with Freddie. We'll see what happens with the coaching staff.
Jeremy, are we making the playoffs?
Probably not, but there's actually realistic scenarios where we could.
So
there's a chance that the Baltimore could clinch this week. If Baltimore wins and the Ravens lose, or if Baltimore wins and the Patriots lose, the Baltimore has home field advantage until the Super Bowl. So how will they treat the Browns game after that? But there's scenarios where if the Titans or the Texans sweep, they play each other 2 of the next 3 weeks. Because of the Texans surprise hammering by the freaking Broncos this weekend, that sets up a scenario where if the Titans sweep them and we tie with the Texans at 9-7, or with the Texans, we would have and if we went out, we would have the tiebreaker because we have a better record in the AFC.
That's if the Steelers lose out as well.
They don't have to though, because they don't have to lose out. They only have to lose 2 of 3. If we finish tied with the Steelers, we'll also have the tiebreaker. If we both finish 9-7. Because of the AFC record. We have the tiebreaker with the Steelers. We have the tiebreaker with the Texans. We do not have the tiebreaker with the Titans. The Bills would have to lose out, or the Bills beat the Steelers. There's a bunch of realistic scenarios. If we win this week, we will 100% still be alive come week 16, which is,
okay. And
the game against the Ravens.
Understand this whole playoff record division scenario thing
sure.
Again. The Ravens haven't clinched the AFC North, correct?
I think if they win this week, they do though.
And that's because they have the best overall record, not because they would have the best conference.
The record in the division record means 0, unless there's a unless you're 10-6, 10-6, and you split with the team you're tied with, then they go to the divisional record. Outside of the division, they go to the conference record. So if us and the Texans finish tied, We didn't play each other, so they go to the conference record, which our record, if we won out, would be better in conference than the Texans.
This may come as a shocker to you, but my dad didn't understand the playoff record rules either.
But yeah, so there's realistic scenarios. I mean, if the Titans were to lose out, the Titans could lose out. They play the Saints and the Texans twice. Now they're playing great ball. Tannehill's 6-1 since he took over. So it probably won't happen, but it could. I mean, that's 3 tough games. And Derrick Henry who's been carrying that team and my fantasy team, by the way, has a hamstring issue and he's been battling a hamstring issue the last 2 weeks, and he had to leave the game early this past week. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that can happen, but it all hinges on if we win. It's one of those things I kind of felt the Browns really did win out and they found a way to beat the Ravens at home next week. It would probably end up taking care of itself. But even if it doesn't, going into the week 17, if you go into week 17 after beating the Ravens with the chance to go to the playoffs, I'll take that,
We got 3 games left: Cardinals, Ravens, Bengals. We have one more home game against Baltimore in 2 weeks, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Will Freddie win out and keep his job? I don't think so. But hopefully, that was 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll presented.
Not good, my friend. Not good.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's get things started with 5 hot minutes with Jeremy Powerll, presented by our good friends at Online Motor Credit. Jeremy, go.
Yeah, so I was just as disappointed as everybody, obviously. I mean, the effort in that game Sunday was just sad. I mean, I know I'm guaranteed to win, and I'll take it. They didn't win. They didn't play well, but it was the defense. It was the effort that, where I thought the Browns in a game that still mattered. And now, as you see, everything fell to where if we would have won that game, we'd be sitting really nice to go to the playoffs. I thought for sure the Browns would come out, be professionals, and play hard, and it didn't happen. And I think what has happened to the Browns is some decisions by John Dorsey to not give certain guys contract has cost them at the end of this year. Demarius Randall clearly did not try in that game. Okay, I've been a Demarius Randall fan. We've talked about it on here. I think he is an excellent player. If you watch that game and then went back and rewatched it, Demarius Randall was not trying to play football. He did not want to be there. He is going through the motions to get through the season, to get a contract next year, probably just trying not to get hurt and get paid by someone else. Little does Demarius know, this is going to crush him, okay? There's no way. He's making $9 million this year in the last year of his deal. The way he's playing right now, there is zero chance anybody is giving him anywhere close to $9 million to play football next year. All he's doing is hurting his cause. Even my guy, Joe Schobert, who I love, who I've talked about forever, looked to me as if the effort was not there as it usually is for Joe. And some of this stuff is that thing of not having a contract going into this year. That's why a lot of GMs avoid this situation altogether with guys that are going into the last year, because this kind of stuff can happen at the end of the season. Guys start thinking about themselves over the team, because I think that's kind of a natural thing to do. We've already seen some weird incidents with Demarius Randall. At this point, the Browns probably would be better off just to move on from Demarius. Cut him, sit him, make him inactive, find a phantom injury, sit him down. The effort I saw, especially on the 45-yard run by Kyler Murray, was disgusting. I don't know if you picked up on this, Chase. That was a disgusting effort. My other problem with this game, my big problem with this game, was I tweeted and I sent a post out on Facebook about this, is we waited too long to get that run game going. Why would you not come out the first series and attempt to run it down their throat? Why? You see what happened. Then the next thing you know, we're down 14-0. And to Freddie's credit, they stuck with the run game. And what happened? We marched right down the field, exactly like in the Cincinnati game, on a drive where all we did was run the ball and score a touchdown. For the life of me, I will never understand why you do not come out of the gate running the ball at a team you know you're going to be able to run it all, to establish that dominance early, get to the second half where those guys are not going to want to tackle Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. They just don't do it. It's so blatantly obvious to everybody who's watching the game. Pound it at these guys and they'll quit. They didn't have anything to play for. What did the Cardinals have to play for? Nothing. They had lost 6 in a row. The season was over. Everybody knew it. They had nothing to play for. Go out, shove it down their throats, get the lead, make them want to quit. Chase, I do not for the life of me understand Freddie's concept and idea behind the offense. It's almost to me as if some of the stuff that Bob Wiley, I know you hate Bob Wiley, but some of the stuff he said about Ken Zampese being the real architect of the offense the last 8 weeks of last year was actually true. It feels to me like Freddie is a good positions coach, a guy who knows football, a guy who gets along with people, but this is the first time Literally, in his career, he has had to be the architect of an offense from the beginning to end. Just today, Todd Monken, who I am 100% convinced now, Todd Monken and Freddie Kitchens do not like each other and do not work well together. Just 15 minutes ago in his press conference, Todd Monken said he is upset about the fact that we don't get the plays into Baker on time. And a lot of time, that's why we're scrambling the last second, because we're not getting the plays in fast enough. That is strictly a Freddie Kitchens problem. Freddie is calling the plays. Freddie is getting the plays into Baker. How can Freddie this late in the season still have trouble getting the plays into Baker? And then Todd said that was part of the reason a lot of times it looks like we're scrambling to get the snap off right at 1 second, or calling timeouts. Like this week, we called a timeout off of a turnover. We called a timeout off of a timeout, because the play clock ran down. It's crazy. This kind of stuff should not be happening this far into the season. I think there is serious dysfunction with Freddie Kitchens, Todd Monken, and the offense, and I think it stems from the fact that Freddie Kitchens, while a great position coach and a guy who's been around, was not ready to be the architect of his own offense.
Oh, geez. I don't think – I want to touch on a couple of those points, man. I don't think you can point to Dorsey for not addressing the Demarius Randall situation and the Joe Schobert situation. That's not the main team issue here. The main team issue here is Freddie Kitchens. And if that is true – now, to Freddie Kitchens' credit – now hear me out. To Freddie Kitchens' credit, he would have never said anything like that, throwing Monken under the bus. Monken right there, and I think he's done this a couple times this year, has, with no regard for Freddie Kitchens' life, said things in a presser or done things that made Freddie look bad. Freddie has never, in any presser all year, whether it's with Higgins, whether it's with Randall, whether it's with anyone, he's never made anyone else look bad. Agreed?
Yeah.
So for Monken to do that, obviously shows dysfunction there. But if that is true, if we are not getting plays into Baker in time for him to make a read, even time for him to call audibles, then my recommendation of firing Freddie after New England gives even more credence. That's Dorsey's main issue this year is forget about the players. Dude, why is Freddie still calling plays and coaching the team?
I think Dorsey did a poor job of heading off some of these issues, like the contract for Randall, like the contract for Schobert. Look, I understand. I still think Schobert's a good player. I understand them not wanting to pay him $35 million over 3 years. I get that. They don't think he's fast enough to run with Lamar Jackson and something he's going to have to do twice a year for here on out. And as a copycat league, I'm sure some other teams now will go to running quarterbacks. You're going to need a fast middle linebacker. I understand that. I understand the Randall thing. But these are – and I don't know what I would do about it. But these are things that NFL GM has to deal with. And Demarius Randall had a history when we traded for him of being this malcontent guy, right?
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason Green Bay let him go. So Dorsey, I guess he probably didn't anticipate this becoming the big problem it has. But, I mean, that's the job of an NFL GM, to anticipate these things and get out in front of them. And he didn't do that with him. So that's something, and that was remember when we got him, that was part of the issue with Dorsey that they talked about in KC was he was not great at those kind of things. Given, the contract issue stuff, communication between the head coach and him they said was poor with him and Andy Reid, stuff like that. So some of the things that we heard about Dorsey that we ignored because we liked the talent he was bringing in are starting to rear their ugly heads. And where he goes from here we'll find out whether we can be successful or not. As far as Freddie goes, I think you're right. Look, I was probably wrong early on. Freddie it's not in him. And he's probably going to be back. Let's be honest. We hope he's not going to be back. I hope he isn't, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be one bit surprised even if they lose these last 2 games if Freddie Kitchens is back. And to me, it's going to be a huge mistake because if he is not able to construct an NFL offense right now, and you see all the stories about how much better the Browns are in heavy formations as opposed to 3 receiver formations, yet we keep running the 3 receivers over the heavy, over the 2 tight end sets. We keep running them over and over, 60, 70% of the time, when the 30% of the time we are in heavy formations, the run game is better, the passing game is better. It just doesn't make sense to me, Chase. It doesn't make sense except there's only one answer, and that's that Freddie, it really is incompetent and that you were right all along.
I just think he's a terrible coach. In-game decisions, obviously offensive strategy, are not his strong suits. And to have him be the driving force of this team with a franchise quarterback, with 2 franchise wide receivers, with 2 franchise running backs, I mean, on paper, one of the best offenses in the league. And for us to be 17th in the league, in the league in offense is Jeremy. It's not going to cut it. I know they said barring a horrific, how do they word it? Barring a horrendous end of the year, he's going to be back. And we talked about that on our pod a couple weeks ago. Like, do not be surprised if Dorsey brings him back. What is horrendous? Like, what is a horrific end of the season? You don't think losing all three is a horrific end?
I mean, I do, but I don't know what they see as a horrific end to the season. I mean, I think getting embarrassed like that in Arizona to a bad football team that had lost 6 in a row when your defense quit, I mean, to me, that's the start of a horrendous end. Now, we'll have to see what happens this week, but I'm sure, A, the Ravens could clinch home field advantage this week with a win. B, they're going to be avenging their last loss. They've won 10 in a row since we beat them. The Ravens have a lot to play for this week. And if our defense comes out and decides they don't want to play, it's going to be really ugly early. I've watched a couple Ravens games in the last month where they scored on their first 5 and 6 possessions. If the Browns don't come out ready to play and they're doing this half-fast lollygag thing, the Ravens are going to run it right down our throat. Hey, you know what Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram are going to do to us if we come out looking like we did against Arizona? They're going to run it down our throat. So maybe you're right. If we go out and get outscored get beat at home by 35-40 after the Arizona effort, and then we go into Cincinnati and lose, the natives are going to be restless. They're going to be calling for Freddie's head. It's going to be an ugly, ugly, ugly offseason for the Browns if we take a whooping this week and lose in Cincinnati next week. And maybe at that point, Jimmy will step in and say, look, we can't have this offseason. We got new uniforms coming out. We got all this stuff happening. It's going to leave everybody with a horrific taste in their mouth if they keep Freddie, if we do get hammered these last 3 weeks.
I think it'll only be ugly offseason if Freddie's retained and we have a terrible end.
That's what I mean. That's where the pressure will come in. They've got stuff planned this offseason. They might be making a big stadium announcement, right? They might be making, they're going to be unveiling new uniforms. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that is happening this offseason. They've got stuff happening this offseason. If we get embarrassed these last 2 weeks, like we just got embarrassed in Arizona, the pressure is going to be on Dorsey to make a move, and it's going to come from Jimmy. Jimmy's only going to sit back for so long and, be embarrassed. So we'll see what happens.
Browns 28, Arizona 34, Cardinals 444 total yards of offense, just completely did whatever the freak they wanted to against us. In a game where, once again, our season was in the balance, the most important drive, the most important away game. We've heard that 4 or 5 times this year. The Browns come out and fall flat on their face. We had 0 sacks. 0 sacks. Not surprising considering Olivier Vernon and Myles Garrett are both out. But you expect at least something.
There was a couple times where it was so frustrating. Like our boy Mac Wilson had Kyler Murray dead to rights, and Kyler made a little move and embarrassed him. We had a couple blitzes where he had free runners and they couldn't bring him down. That kind of stuff just bothers me, man. It was just – and you're right, we didn't have Olivier Vernon. Chad Thomas got handled. So it was a rough day. No, he could sit back there, dance around, move around, give guys time to get open. I'm not going to blame Denzel Ward and those guys. I mean, when you have all day to throw, that's going to happen. But it was just a lack of effort that was the thing that was just killed you.